You're listening to Beyond the Box Art, the only podcast where resin fumes, stash guilt, and decal rage meet in glorious unpainted harmony. Hiya BenchMates, this is Beyond the Box Art, the official podcast of the International Plastic Modelers Society UK. Please welcome your host, Paul Pendleton-Brown, and joining him this episode are Mike Baldwin, Dan Brazil, Luke Flynn, James Nevitt, Mark Housley, and Paul Wong. And we are joined this episode by Matt Irvine, ex-BBC Special Effects, and Scott Taylor from the Scale Modelers Supply in Australia.
Hiya BenchMates, and welcome to episode 12 of Beyond the Box Art, the official podcast of IPMS UK, supported by Ammo by Mick Jimenez, Face Hanger Resin Accessories, and our latest addition to the supporters family, Fishcop Model Company. More of which later on. Your fortnightly modelling show where we celebrate the stories, skill and soul of scale modelling in all its forms. Before we dive into this episode, I wanted to take a moment to reflect on our recent conversation with Spencer Pollard. That episode struck a chord with so many listeners, and with us too. It wasn't just a chat about kits, paint or techniques, it was a reminder of the human side of this hobby, of the passion that drives us, the pressures that can come with it, and the importance of honesty and vulnerability in community that often focuses on perfection. Spencer spoke with an openness and sincerity that was both powerful and moving. He talked about the difficult chapters of his recent past, the lessons he's learned, and his determination to move forward with positivity, creativity, and gratitude. For us here at Beyond the Box Art, it was an absolute privilege that he chose our show as the space to share that journey. His first real return to the podcast world, and I think I can safely say it reminded us all why we do what we do, because modelling isn't just about the kits on the bench, it's about the people behind them. So from us here, Spencer, thank you, and if you haven't heard the episode, please do yourself a favour, go back and have a listen. So what have we got for you for this episode? Well, Precision by Passion is back with Scott Taylor from the Scale Modelers Supply in Australia talking about lacquer paints and much, much more. Plus we are joined by another big name in the modelling industry, Matt Irvine, former BBC Special Effects, who worked on a lot of TV shows for a few decades, but included shows like Doctor Who and Blake's 7 to name but two. And he's promised to lift the lid on some behind-the-scenes stories and how some of the models were built and constructed. It's amazing what you can do with a pair of hairdryers, but more of that later on. So, for those that don't know, I'm your host, Paul Pendleton-Brown. My mates call me Brownie, so let's be mates. I'm joined on this episode by Dan.
Hiya BenchMates.
Wongy.
Hi, did you miss me?
Who's that again?
Luke.
Hello.
Mark. Hi everyone.
Nevs.
Hi everyone.
And Boulders.
Hello.
So grab your brew cutters, pour yourself a brew, settle in for another episode packed with inspiration, conversation, and always a fair bit of bench banter. Right, let's start off like we normally do with what we've got on our benches. So Mark, what have you been up to since we last had a chat?
Pretty much the same thing as we last chatted, to be honest with you. So I'm still doing my little figures, and that's pretty much it.
How about the Elise?
The Elise is at the point, we're still at the same point as you saw it last week, where it's all filled, fuselage is all together, it's good to be the wings put on, that sort of stuff, at that sort of stage. I'm hoping the next bit will be pretty quick, you know, once I've got everything and I'm happy with it, it'll just be the old bish bash bosh and everything's together as you know it. So hopefully that'll be the way that's going to go. And that's pretty much it for my on the bench this week.
Blimey, that was quick. And what have you been spending your cash on?
I bought de Havilland Mosquito Duke Hawkins book today.
And
Yeah, brilliant, really, really good. Lots of really good interior stuff. Perfect as is you would expect from Duke Hawkins for the modeler, but I think it's the modeler in mind that they do all these things. I also I picked up on Sunday the Messerschmitt P1011 132nd scale from Das Works. Really nice kit. Well, it looks nice on the sprues, but I've not actually seen one built up, to be honest with you. But it looks really nice. And I also picked up today, because it was cheap as chips, the Edward kamikaze plane. I don't know what it's actually called. I've not got it here. I've left it in the car because I've not sneaked it in yet.
We need a sound effect for creeping things into the house, don't we?
Oh, yeah, we do, yeah. I've not had the balls to sneak it in yet, just in case.
Busted!
But yeah, it was 25 quid, and it's a nice little 148 thing. And again, one you'd love it because it's very few parts. I think it's 3 sprues, and very simple. So yeah, that's been my I had a trip over to Element Games to pick up some paints and stuff, washes mainly. I wanted some of the flesh coloured washes for these little figures I'm doing, and that's it. And I haven't tried them out yet, so I don't know how successful they're going to be. So it's one of them things where, you get it home and you think, right, okay, let's get on with it. And then next thing you know, something else gets in the way. And so there we are.
Okay, Mark, thanks for that update. Dan, what have you got on the bench?
Well, hold the horses, everyone. I have finished a model. The little Tamiya 148 M5A1 Stuart is done and ready for display, which I'm really happy about. I have to say, I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been a great little kit. And I've already started the next quarter scale one from the stash, and that's the Tamiya Soviet KV-2 tank, which is a great big slab-sided hulk of a thing that the Soviets used. On it, I've had to have a go at doing the stippled metal texturing.
Oh, right. Okay. That sounds good.
Because it's flat plastic. So there's a few ways that you can do it. You can use, if you don't want to spend the money and you've already got it in and you've already got it on your bench, you can use Tamiya Extra Thin, where you keep layering it on, soften the plastic and then stipple it. But I've got in the toolbox a pot of Mr. Surfacer 500 and it's perfect for doing.
So what tools do you use to stipple it?
A manky old paintbrush is all you need.
Oh, right. Okay.
Get it on and then leave it and let it just start to dry and then start stippling it with that. Don't worry too much if the stippling is too proud, so to speak, because once it's fully dry, just go over it with
knock it back.
Like a 400 grade sanding stick, and that does the job. So yeah, that's the next one on the bench. And obviously this one, I'm adding photo etch, like mudguard brackets and bits and pieces like that, because in 48 scale, they're not great out of the plastic. And I did try the Ammo Ultra Glue, which is fantastic. It's strange, isn't it? Because it sets a lot quicker than what I thought a PVA-based glue would.
Yeah.
And it's got a really good grab as well. And you can clean up around the edge of the parts with a brush and water. So really impressed with that.
It's a lot easier than using CA.
I think so. The first one I did try with CA and I caught it and it actually pinged off.
You're not supposed to do that.
I know, but the Ultra Glue has got a bit of flex to it. It can obviously take that, if you do accidentally catch it. That's what's been on the bench. And I went to a show on Sunday, me and my son and all of my West Norfolk crew. We went to the Brampton show, IPMS Brampton, which is in St Ives in Cambridgeshire, not the other one. Took my 13-year-old with me who really enjoyed it, and he came home with a Gundam Zaku kit, which he's already built it and he's already had a go at panel lining it and adding some weathering and scratches.
Brilliant.
While we were there was a flyer for something called the Gundam Convention. It's called Day of the Gundam on the 11th of July 2026 at the Leicester Tigers Rugby Stadium. So we'll probably attend that, which is great because it's a gateway into the hobby for him.
Absolutely. Colourful plastic, easy to build.
Yeah. Easy to build, which is what everybody wants to do. So, yeah. And I have to say, it goes together beautifully, that stuff, because it's Bandai Namco. They know what they're doing.
Well,
but he also, while we were at the show, showed an interest in a lot of the fighter jets with that digi-camo pattern.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Over the top of them. It's not my wheelhouse, but we did see a few. So we may look into a kit that he can build in that sort of genre, but I would assume we need a masking set to do that sort of effect.
I would say so. I wouldn't do it freehand.
No.
There are some kits available that have the markings as decals, so that may be a way to start.
I think he'd be okay with deck as well. But his old man hates masking, but there's no reason why he can't have a go at getting good at it. So yeah, that was our show. We are due to go to Lincoln show coming up, so it's a week and another week of going to shows, and then we haven't got anything then until the run up to the mighty Telford. I do have a request for our listeners. I'm looking for a figure of the Iron Maiden mascot, Eddie. I've seen them before, but I have no idea who makes it. I'd assume it's 1/32 or even larger. The specific one I want is him as depicted on the cover of the Trooper single. He's in the ripped red infantry tunic holding the torn Union flag. You know the one. So if anybody knows where I can get one, please email us or ping us a message on the Beyond the Box Art Facebook page, please, because I'd like to have a go at painting one of those.
That figure, I'm not sure if it's in 1/32 scale, but I'm pretty certain there was a guy at Telford who does these resin figures. He's got loads, and I'm sure I've seen something similar to that.
Was he on a plinth?
It's not my bag, that type of thing.
No.
So I skirt by the stall and just say hello and just have a quick nosy.
Yeah.
Rummage through his cheap bins.
It's one of those things that you know it when you see it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't necessarily take note of who sells it. So yeah, if anybody knows where I can get one or who does one, please let us know. Purchase-wise, I got some more Tamiya tape refills in the little bags rather than the actual cassette that they come in. They work out a lot cheaper. The ammo glue, as I mentioned, this was all at the show, by the way. And I did find in a bargain box some resin figures in 1/35 that are British Paras.
Oh,
I guess around the Arnhem Market Garden time, but they were just bagged with no label, but they seem really nicely cast, and I'm looking forward to painting some more figures and practicing the old techniques.
coolio. That sounds brilliant.
And that's it for me. And what you been up to, mate? What's on your bench?
Well, funny enough, Dan and listeners, I've been pottering away on the Airfix Sea Harrier in 1/48 scale. So obviously it's a kit of few parts, about 80 odd, but I've increased the parts total because a lot of the items on the kit needed either rescribing or there was bits missing, wing fences not quite there. So I've been pottering with that and just putting all these things back in. And as of now, as of this recording, it's all painted. It just needs a gloss coat, decals on, and all the little bits, all the sub-assemblies going onto it, and that's done. And then I'm back onto HMS Sheffield for getting it done for Telford, basically. So that's me and my stuff.
How's your rigging going?
I've not started it just yet because I'm still in the paint process. One of our benchmates emailed in, and that's Leo from Munich. And he was asking the question about the rigging on HMS Sheffield. So at this moment in time, HMS Sheffield will be going into paint. So as soon as I've done that, Leo, I will be doing the rigging and I'll take some pictures and we can post them onto our website so you can have a look there. So I'll take lots and lots of photos.
Silly question, but should rigging be painted or do you always just leave it as is?
Some of it is and some of it's not. It depends. You can get those rigging easy line and there's I can't even pronounce it. Mike, what's it called? Vita, is it? Or something like that?
Ushi van der Ross and stuff.
Yeah, that's the other one.
That's what I've got. That's what that is.
And you can get them in different thicknesses.
0.1 mil, 0.3 and 0.5.
Yeah. So depending on the scale of your ship or aircraft, aerial or whatever, you super glue one end and you stretch it out and super glue the other end and snip it off. And that's as easy as it is. But if you stretch it, it goes finer.
Ah.
So you put a bit of tension to it, it will go finer. But if you're doing multiple rigging lines, just be careful that you don't overdo it, because you don't want them all different thicknesses, if you see what I mean.
Makes sense. So what do you use to secure? CA and accelerator?
I just use a little dab of it and it just goes straight on.
Okay.
So you want an instant grab, really. You don't want to play about with it.
No.
So, Leo, I will be taking photos, and I think we've got your email address. We'll send an email back to you. How's that? Okay, so that's HMS Sheffield. In terms of other builds, I do have a few things which are on the bench, to the side of the bench, not on the bench, and that's geared up for the January show, the Bolton show, the now world famous Bolton show.
Recommended by Spencer Pollard.
As recommended by Spencer, yes, the best UK one-day show. I love that word, the UK one-day show. Can't stretch it to 2, but not that good. I've got a couple of things in the background. I'm keeping it top secret at the minute, but just to let you know, it's a Tamiya build. So I'm keeping stum on that one.
In other words, the missus doesn't know how much you spent on it.
No.
Right.
But it is quite an expensive kit, and it came out of the loft, should we say.
Right. Which model shop was that precisely?
I'll give you the background to it. It was bought by my auntie, God bless her, who's passed away since, and a long time ago. And this is back in 1984. Before your time, Dan.
I was 1 year old there, sir.
Well, near your time. Yeah.
There you go, mate.
Well, before my time, I was born in 86.
Well, there you go. So it was 1984, and it was from a model shop in Hong Kong. Plenty of model shops out there. It was a Tamiya kit. I'm not going to say what it is, but let's put it this way. It was that big, it actually went in as hand luggage on the aircraft coming home.
Okay.
And I bet the quality of it is probably better than some stuff that's being made now.
Let's put it this way. I don't know if I'll do it justice, because I did start it around 85 to try and do it. And unfortunately, my skills weren't brilliant then. It just stayed in the loft. I mean, it's part built, but I'll have to strip off some of the paint. So, which leads me on to that other bit.
So what did you buy then?
Well, funny enough, I took Mike's advice and I bought that paint stripper, the VMS. Yeah, I think it's called VMS 3 or something like that. And it strips off anything from enamel through to acrylics. There is
VMS.
Yeah, there's a VMS 2, which will only do acrylics. But Mike recommended go for the bigger one. That's it.
3.0.
Yeah, 3.0. So I bought that one because I need to strip off some paint. The other one I bought is some burnishing fluid from Mr. Mig. So I've got that one. So I'll be playing with that one over the weekend to try and get some of the etch to actually hold the paint. Because I did try spraying some etch the other day and it just rubbed off. The paint rubbed off. So it didn't quite hold for some reason. So hopefully the etch will burn it a little bit, and the paint will hold. But I did read somewhere years ago that I'm sure, I don't know if I read this right, but there's a fella who used a lighter on the actual Mel just to change the colour of it. And then that particular thing would hold.
Was that to anneal it?
Yeah, that's the word. You can tell I never did metalwork in school. It would work.
Well, if you put a lighter to wood, you know what's going to happen, don't you?
Oh, look, there's a fire engine.
Yeah, I know. Tried it with wood. Oh, yeah, the school woodwork department disappeared. But yeah, so I've only bought those two things. No kits, because I've got far too many and I just need to get on with some. So that's all I've done.
So, welcome back to Nevs. Where have you been hiding?
I think it's Jet 2. I think they've been locking me away from the pod. They don't want any competition for my attention, my time. So yes, but I'm glad to be back.
Is it because everyone's actually sharing the Jet 2 jingle on their Instagram these days?
So I think it's become like a cult in that you walk into work and you have children. It's something like a dystopian novel. These children walking past, just chanting about nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person.
And if that's what gets me through the workday, then so be it.
Oh, it's that bad, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay, so what have you got on your bench then?
So I'm having a bit of a crisis with this Shinano because obviously I want it finished for Telford. I'm going to have to go at breakneck speed over the next 2 weeks completing Shinano. So it's there, the hull's there, the hangar's a separate form at the moment, and then it's all the things that need to go in the hangar. So it's just a case of getting it all painted and assembled. But I do want to put a nice little base on it as well, but that might have to go by the wayside for Telford, who knows.
Not a seascape?
No. As you know, I might have said this on one occasion fleetingly on the pod. I'm a bit of a fan of full hull kit. Now,
I hadn't noticed.
What I was thinking for this, I want to create a proper black rhomboid shaped base with like a picturescape on each side. One doing like a storyboard of the history of the ship. Obviously, one side, I'll use my friend at Name It Plates to give me a really nice nameplate for it. One detailing the actual model specifications. And then one detailing what I've done to represent the ship. So, for instance, in the hangar deck, I'll just say this one. The hangar was split into two sections. One, and there's a big wall creating a very narrow gap between them. But the gap, if you were to measure against an aircraft, even with folded wings, would not be fitting through. And the idea was one would be a maintenance hangar, which is the forward one, the larger one, because it was intended to carry a large amount of storage aircraft, and the rear would be for the actual complement of the carrier. The problem with that is that no carrier would ever function like that in terms of you've got two elevators. If something happens there, you need to get an aircraft from the rear of the carrier to the front. You're not going to put a partition wall preventing you from doing that. So what I've done on this kit is I've removed that partition wall, and I'm going to put in a mesh curtain, which is very common in aircraft carrier hangars. A mesh curtain will have the function that this so-called wall would, so that it could be removed if they need to move aircraft from A to B, which is exactly what any aircraft carrying history always ends up doing.
Okay, sounds interesting. I'm just wondering how big your base is going to be if you're going to have these storyboards either side, but...
Well, you'll need your glasses. You'll just need your glasses to see them.
Oh, fair enough. And what have you been spending your cash on, other than the base?
I've not even spent my cash on the base yet. That's the problem.
Oh.
Have not. I've been good, actually. I've not bought anything as of late. I know last time I was on the pod, I was telling about my shenanigans visiting basically all of the UK's brick and mortar model shops, but I haven't been to any since. So I've been good.
Okay. Saving your cash up for Telford, obviously.
I am. I've got a bit of a shopping list going, so that'll be interesting.
Mike, what's on your bench?
The same thing that's been on for the last 3 episodes, the 350th King George V and the 350th HMS Warspite. I've done nothing for the last 2 weeks.
You've been busy.
Unfortunately, other things I've been busy. Weekend away with the Air Cadets, and I've not been well. So when I'm not well, I'm not in the mood for any modelling, unfortunately. But yeah, one's further than the other. So hopefully this should be done for Telford. Fingers crossed, everything crossed.
So are you doing these full hull, or are you doing a waterline?
So they're going to be on a seascape.
Ah, right. So you're going for the seascape look.
Yeah, you just look better. Plus, it's easy to transport them as well, because you can just put them in a box and nothing's going to move. Nothing's going to get smashed off. As where if you put them in a box with full hull, they have a tendency to slide about. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Seascape.
Cool.
One's for the Atlantic, so that'll be a darker blue. And one, I think, is either going to be Norwegian fjords or in the Med. I've not decided yet.
Mike, can I ask, your seascapes, do you use a picture frame or do you make a frame to fit?
So,
full enough if I just
Because I see in what we would call charity shops and what our American friends would call the Goodwill, lots of cheap picture frames that are ideal, but I often wonder, am I going to use that and try and squeeze what I need onto it, or is it going to be too big? Or do you put the ship on the seascape and then make the frame to fit because you want the right proportions?
So it's going to be the latter. So I will use a blue foam board.
Right.
And then do the seascape on that. So obviously I'll carve out a bit of a trench in it for the hull to sit in, and then I will seascape around it. And then, funny enough, I was talking to the Wongi about this the other day. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some balsa strip and then glue it around the outside and then paint it black and do it that way. I know some people do use picture frames for like aircraft and stuff like that because they can gauge how big a 72nd, 48 or even a 32nd World War II fighter will be, and generally have them like that, and they'll either repaint them a different colour just so it's got a nice trailed edge on the outside. These are just going to be plain, just squared up, and possibly have a plaque on them, but I don't know yet because I don't think I've got time to get them done.
No, I was going to say, just as a tip, if you do a ship, use the photography rule of thirds, because it puts the ship into a setting then, rather than trying to tighten, basically use a base right up to the edges of the ship. It looks a bit contrived, if you know what I mean. Whereas if you've got something with the rule of thirds, where a third of the ship is 1/3 of your base, depending on how much size you've got, it gives it a better feeling of scale then, because, you know, from a distance, it looks right. Whereas from a distance with a seascape, which is really tight up, it doesn't give you the same effect. That's the thing. Yeah. Go on. Sorry, mate. You carry on. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, so that edging, that balsa wood edging on the side, you would paint that in black rather than...
Yeah.
But you can wood stain it as well, can't you?
Yeah, you can wood stain it if you want to do the old, you know, the old style, but I just don't, me personal preference, I don't like the wood staining. I like...
No. Yeah, I would go black because, for example, the little Stuart tank that I've done, I haven't actually done a diorama base or anything for it, but I have got a wooden round, just a little plinth, and it's just painted black, and I really don't like it, and I don't want people to get offended, but seeing an aeroplane on a piece of paper or just on it's not so bad on a tablecloth, but particularly in competitions where you just see a plane sitting on a piece of paper and you think, you've put all that hard work and effort into it, just give it that little bit extra by, even if it's just a black base, it just frames it, I think, better personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my personal preference. Some people might not like that and disagree with it, but that's just how I feel about it.
No, I completely agree with you. Like you say, when you see a stunning model and it's just on a piece of paper, it's just not finessed off. Now, I have seen some in competitions where they've used a mirror and put the aircraft down on top or whatever it is, so you can see the underneath, to see all the weathering, like especially if it's a Phantom. Everybody knows an F4 Phantom underneath is dirty. It's full of oil, full of grease. And it just shows you that bit. So I know there's been a little bit of controversy on
Yeah.
people picking models up in competitions.
Never touch.
And then looking underneath. To be honest, I think if somebody touched mine, if I'd put blood, sweat and tears into it and I saw them picking it up, I don't think I'd be happy, in all honesty.
The pictures which seem to be doing the round for a competition in the States, it does say in the rules of that competition, and I think it was Rule 1, that the models could be picked up by the judges if they wanted to have a look. Now, if you don't want it to be done, you could actually put down on your form that you didn't want your model picked up. But it seems to have actually caused a bit of a storm. The IPMS USA Nationals, the rule is they are not picked up, full stop. But that hasn't rattled down to individual competitions held by organisations in the States. And the rule for that particular competition the photographs were circulated from, it was either Rule 1 or within the first few rules, I can't remember exactly which one, but it does state the models could be picked up unless you specifically said otherwise.
But if you can't judge a model by looking at a 360 view of it and getting an idea of the quality of someone's work, if you can't judge it by just looking at that you feel that you need to pick up and upskirt a model I'm sorry, I think that's not right.
Yeah.
The one in question was a vehicle, and apparently they used a torch to look at the bottom of the engine to see if it had been built correctly, if it was all wired correctly and stuff like that. Now, if I remember correctly, there was a controversy last year, and I'm sure, in fact, I'm not 100% sure, I'm going to change that was at the Nationals when people were picking up armour and looking underneath. Now, one of the controversy...
That was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, because somebody hadn't painted the bottom plate of the tank.
I never painted the bottoms of it. Yeah.
And left it red. Well, they left it red. Now, if real things are built, 19, I'm going to say paint on that, just leave the rust oxide primer on it. But again, it's obviously a sore subject. The IPMS UK don't pick up models. They will look around. If they need to look underneath, they will use the camera to get a better angle just to see underneath. But yeah, they would never, ever, ever pick up a model.
Every show we go to, every single club that's displaying or SIG, what does it say? Please do not touch the models. And if you have to move someone's model, that's different from picking it up and holding it 5 or 6 feet in the air with your hands. The chances of breaking something greatly increased. And on a car model, and I guarantee if that car is in a competition, given some of the quality of the cars that I've seen in competitions, the polished finish on them is absolutely stunning. Something I can only dream of getting to. Someone's put and I tell you what, it must take hours and hours to get a polished surface. And then someone comes and puts their hands, their fingers, after they've had lunch or whatever, all over that surface. It's so disrespectful. I really just think it's disrespectful.
I think you're right, Dan. Plus the fact you will have the fingerprints of the said person on it.
That rattled my cage when I saw that.
It also boils down to as well, if they dropped it, who's liable for paying damages? Is it the club that's hosting it? Because if you've spent, now I know people who build cars and I know a very good one who does the motorsport and F1 SIG, and they can spend 3 times more hours doing a car than what we would do on an aircraft. So, if it was, dropped and smashed and everything else, who's liable for it?
But is this a judging criteria thing? So those guys that are looking at that vehicle, like I say, I go back to we'll look at it 360. You can turn it if it's on a base or whatever, or even if it's on a piece of paper, you can just slide the piece of paper around, look at that model, get down, get close to it, and say, if this guy's finish is this good here, what are they doing? Are they looking for fault?
Yeah.
So are they looking for the negatives? They're judging the negatives.
Obviously, they will do, because they'll be looking to mark it down. So obviously there'll be a point system. But why can't they just have an acrylic tube, like a piece of acrylic square for the car to sit on? And the dentist mirrors that you can get that full extend out with a angle?
Yeah.
Why can't one of them to look underneath? There's all different ways. A model should not be touched unless that is that person. It's their model that can pick it up.
Yeah. What another option would be, they've got a piece of paper there with a person's name on it. How much time does it say, look, we'll put this one on ice for a minute. We'll go and judge some others. We really want to, if we think this is worthy of a first place or a gold or whatever the judging standard is, why don't they say, let's give a call out to this person, just get them over and say, look, we want to judge your car. Do we have your permission to just pick it up and have a good look underneath, so to speak? And that person, if it was me, I'd go, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But to just do it, and then everybody's got a phone in their pocket and everybody's got social media, and we know how things can spread. And it's just created this whole situation that probably could have been avoided.
I think at Telford, people's names aren't on it. When you enter into the competitions in Telford, you just get a number.
Yeah, but the only person who knows who they are is the competition secretary, because when you go onto the online page and register, you have to put your details in.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're given a number, they write down, so they go down and say, yep, they write it down, and then they judge blind. But if there's ever an issue or they need to have something checked, they will then try and get hold of that person to come in and say, can you move this so we can look at it?
Going back to something more topical, so you're still working on your ships. What have you bought?
Nothing. Sweet Jack Nora.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Saving your pennies for Telford.
To be honest, I don't think I'll be buying anything at Telford. There's nothing in particular that I need.
We'll just make a note of the time in this part of the episode where he said that, and remember what actually happens on the episode after Telford.
Don't forget my other house coming with me, so she will know.
Oh, and hang on. She's coming over to the show, or just going to the actual?
No, she's gonna come and have a look.
Oh, right, okay, very good.
And that she did it last year and she enjoyed it. But obviously we're down for the full weekend. So the Friday I'm going to be obviously busy with the setup. Saturday, everybody's going to be coming with the models, get it all arranged to a very presentable order. And then
Absolutely.
I will be dotted about here, there and everywhere, because I need to find a few more traders for the show in January, because we've had some, unfortunately, I've retired.
That's inconsiderate.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it? Yeah.
I know, how dare they retire?
Yeah, can't retire.
So I need some young blood, see what we can drum up there, and then I might get a chance to actually have a look, because I don't know yet if I'm judging. I'm on the list for judging, but I just don't know yet. It's not been fully confirmed. So knowing me, it'll be confirmed the night before. So it's just one of them. I've just got to wait and see. And to be honest, Francis will more than likely be buying.
All right, okay. So Francis will be running over to me saying, Wongi, I've just seen a 124 scale Harrier for 15 quid. Are you interested? And by the time I get to where you've told me it is, it's gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Francis is into the Bandai stuff, so the trumpeter transformers,
Yeah.
she's built them all and she really enjoys the build because it's just snap fit, the technology on them.
They're brilliant, aren't they?
Plastic injection molding is superb.
Yeah.
And they've just brought out, is it 3 new ones or 2 new ones? 2. Nemesis Prime and Wheeljack they've brought out. So they're the 2 new ones. And at 30 quid a pop, some of them are good value for money. Some of them are like, But it swings and roundabouts because they're all 30 quid. They're all 29.99.
Yeah, but when you think about it, they are the same price as a Bandai Star Wars kit, aren't they? Really. In fact, they're a bit cheaper than that.
My son's built 2 of them and he loved them. He really did. He thought they were great. And they're, from what he does, they're posable as well.
Yes, they are very posable. Very, very posable. They're just the technology, because they're not painted. It's all plastic injection. So the wheels that are on like Bumblebee, for instance, they inject the silver and then inject the black straight away. So it forms the wheel and then they inject others on top of it.
That is some technology, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's just some technology, because when I spoke to the importer, it was make or break for Trumpeter apparently with this technology. If they could get it to work, then it was going to be superb. If they didn't, then obviously it was a massive financial hole that we'd have to recoup.
So I think it's worked then, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They're absolutely stunning. Yeah. You know, super detail, the eyes, you know, all minuscule detail, but they're not painted.
We saw lots at the ModelWorld live show because we displayed there, and my son was building his while we were there, and lots of kids with parents were saying, where did you get that from? Because it's Optimus, because it's Bumblebee, they know who these characters are. And then what was quite heartening was 20 minutes later, you see them and they walk past and go, I got one.
Yeah.
That excitement, you know.
Birmingham.
Yeah, that was at Birmingham, yeah.
I had them on display at the Bolton stand.
Ah, Right. Yeah.
3 that Francis had done, they were in pausable positions. So there were 2 Decepticons.
Yeah.
One was Blitzwing, and I can't remember who the other one was. And then Bumblebee was in the middle, giving him an absolute bashing with his...
Yeah. But seeing kids with them and getting genuinely excited about getting home and building them, and actually seeing my son there, putting them together at the table, they make that connection. You know, I can do that. And that's great, you know.
So it's got play value with it.
Oh, yeah, you can.
So it's great for kids, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not brittle. You can, you know, if you dropped it, it would be fine.
Oh, right. Okay. That's the thing with modern day starter kits. I mean, let's face it, Airfix have done something quite good with their starter kits recently, as opposed to rebashing existing kits and then chucking some pots of paint in there. I think certainly with the new style from Airfix, that's great. But what you're saying to me is, if you actually look at these kits, it's like one step higher than a starter kit, but the finish is even better.
Superb, yeah. Absolutely superb.
Did you weather or do any sort of, weathering or painting work to yours, Mike?
So Francis, obviously the Francis...
Sorry, yeah.
No, she just built them, snapped them all together, built them clean.
Because I reckon you could satin coat them, do an oil wash to protect them, because obviously you're never too sure with the plastic and solvents, and put in an oil-based wash. Or you could use a clay-based wash, which wouldn't cause a problem at all. And then actually do some chipping and some battle scars, and a bit like the Gundams, but in a smaller scale. And then how good would they look with a nice matte coat over the top on a little display base, or even a diorama, a street scene, or a backdrop? What a fantastic, and again, another niche hobby, modelling hobby niche.
It is a very, it's very niche, and they're not going to stop there, because they've not done Megatron, they've not done, the other one was Starscream, they've done Soundwave, even the cassettes, you get Ravage and the other one in with it. They're absolutely superb.
You get ravaged? Really?
One of the Decepticons.
Oh, right, okay.
Cassettes is called Ravage. It's like a Jaguar type cat. They're good, they're superb. They're absolutely superb. And Francis bit the book.
Does any of this ring a bell, Brownie, what we're talking about? Not really.
Well, partially, because I was looking at our local rag, local paper for those that don't know the English parlance for it, the other evening, and saw an advert for a new model shop opening locally to us, which a new model shop opening these days, bricks and mortar, to be commended. It's in a town called Warrington, which is not a million miles away from where we are, and the shop PM store is basically Gundams, and they've got lots of paints, accessories, tools, everything you can think of for actually building Gundams. They've also got some kinetic models and other stuff as well for general model building. But, you know, someone actually coming out and opening a store these days, really to be commended. But have a look at their shop online, pmstoreuk.com. It gives you an idea of what they actually do. But Stanley, who owns the shop, has also got a store in Hong Kong.
I do know that there is a pop-up Gundam shop in London at the moment. It's a temporary one. It's not going to be there forever. I think it's in Camden Market, but I'm sure if BenchMates will Google, if Gundam is your thing or you're interested in finding out some more about it, if you just Google Gundam pop-up store London, that's obviously London, UK, not in Canada. And the store is there, and definitely worth a look if it's your neck of the woods. And while you're in London, there's plenty of other places, model shops and whatnot you can visit. Yeah.
Seems to be a very growing popular thing at the minute. When I take my excursion trips back to Hong Kong, every model shop you go in there, it's wall-to-wall Gundam, or it's Tamiya kits, or it's Trumpeter kits.
I've got an interesting one for you. So I was looking on Facebook, was it yesterday? And somebody has designed a CNC machine, a bit like a 3D resin printer, so that you can produce metal stuff.
That's interesting.
A metal
CNC machine. metal CNC machine. So looks like a 3D printer and it mills anything you want out of it. So I was like, ooh.
Interesting.
A lot of people will be able to design their own undercarriage and mill them out themselves.
That would be very interesting.
I just had a different thought then.
And tracks. Oh, no, you'd 3D print tracks, wouldn't you?
Well, no, but you could CNC if you wanted metal tracks. Now, I know a certain company, I'm not going to name them, they use white metal. They're an absolute disaster for drilling out. I have pricked my finger more times than a pub dartboard, and I would never use them again. They look fantastic. I've done 2 tanks, I've done a Churchill, and I've done the Tiger 131. I wouldn't use them again. Now, I know there's resin ones, and then there's a hybrid one, which is metal with resin pads, if it's got pads on them. But there's nothing stopping you actually using a CNC machine to...
So, go on. How much are we looking at for something like this?
Nobody knows yet. If I can find the link again, I will put it in our podcast chat and you can have a look for yourself. But there was guys there that were milling out cogs, loads of stuff. And it's, for me, I've sent you a link that you need to have a look at. A guy is actually building a 1/10th Spitfire out of metal.
Oh, right. Okay.
And you want to see it. The seat moves, because I never knew this. I just thought the bracing frame was that seat position, but apparently it can move up and down. And this guy has developed it. You can even move the flight control stick.
Oh, my God.
So you can move it to the left, you can move it to the right, and you can see all the cabling. So, honest to God, when this guy finishes this, it's going to be absolutely superb, but everything works on it.
Museum quality, is that? That's where it's going.
Well, it's like the one at Cosford. If you look at the one at Cosford, that's a P51 in that case.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely sublime, and that's all made from metal.
Just to the right of the entrance to the museum as you go in, because I was there last week for an air traffic symposium. Hey-ho.
Yeah. Things you do at the weekend.
The CNC machine is going to be very, very interesting because that will more than likely make it easier for people to produce their own undercarriage.
And can you use the word landing gear instead?
Why do you not like undercarriage?
No, I don't like the word undercarriage. It has a different meaning for me.
Moving on.
Drop your undercarriage.
Yeah.
But it's an undercarriage. A carriage is something across, and then obviously it's underneath, so it's an undercarriage.
Your undercarriage is held up by your trolleys, mate. Come on.
Always keep your undercarriage clean as well.
There's no oil staining on an undercarriage.
Half the world doesn't know what we are going on about it.
And I really strongly suggest you don't actually Google it on your work computer.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely not. That would be a bad idea. Definitely.
Well, just in case anyone's interested, I'm still working on the Airfix Seeking for the Telford show.
Ah, yes.
And you're going to get the parts in time for that, Brownie?
I've got them.
Yeah. Oh, blimey.
Christ, that was quick.
Oh, yes.
It's no wonder you're an early bird if you're building it at that rate.
The internals of the aircraft is virtually complete, just about to button it up and start working on the externals, which is where the little components need to be added on.
So just remind me again, this is the Norwegian one, is it?
This is a Norwegian Air Force, so it's gloss white with day-glow orange stripes and areas all over. Really attractive aircraft. It's Mark 43B 148th Seeking, converted from the Airfix HAS5 release. So, yeah, it's a really nice build. It really is a nice build.
As they say, it's going to look a stunner.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. I just wanted something that was hopefully going to brighten up the table at Telford. He does do his Canadian Seeking, yes. But Andy from Jamscrew is going to be on the next episode. We've had a conversation with him whilst you were away, and he talks about the different conversion kits they do for the 148th range, but also he's talking about the product there probably the start of next year, which is a 132nd Seeking.
Bugger. My jaw has just dropped.
No, sorry, I'm just looking. I've got a crease in my decal for the Wasp.
Oh, that's painful.
Can't do that one then.
Do you think that will actually solve a set out?
I don't know if it's creased it and fractured the decal.
Oh. Brownie,
Yes.
aren't you building a car as well?
Yes, the Moosaroo, the deep joy. Thanks for raising that.
Come on then. I know you can't tell us too much, but how, yeah.
It's coming along, but until I've got to a stage that I can share what I'm actually doing, I'm doing something that I haven't seen any of the other competitors in the competition doing.
So it's not out of the box as such.
Oh no, far from out of the box.
Right.
Far from out of the box.
Okay. Spaceship wings and laser guns. Right. Okay.
No. Unfortunately, it's got to be Tokyo Drift style from the early 2000s. So it's going to be very much in that genre.
Are you pleased with the progress that you've made so far?
Oh, yes, I am pleased, but I'm just not sharing anything that I've done yet. It's getting to the point that I'm going to be able to, but...
No. With it being something that you don't usually build, are you enjoying what you're doing?
I know we're in the wrong country, but can I claim the fifth?
Fair enough.
I don't want to incriminate myself. Yes.
I just wonder because there'll be people that naturally can say, yeah, I'd look forward to doing that. And then others, and I believe you may be in this camp, thought, oh, crikey.
Well, the thing is, before we opened the box, I said it was either going to be something armour or a car. And unfortunately, I was bang on the money with a car.
You are tired, aren't you, mate?
Yes, very tired. But yeah.
It could have been an armoured car.
Yeah, there are plans for it. And when it's done, if it comes off, it's going to involve some 3D printing. I've got a lot of ideas. And it's all drawn out. Everything's planned. And yes.
Remind me again of the time scale on this. When's it got to be done by?
March next year.
Oh, bags of time.
Yeah, I know. The trouble is at the moment, editing the pods, trying to build the stuff for Telford, trying to build the stuff for Bolton. I haven't built a model for myself for months.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's one where the pressure can be too much.
Yeah. There was a very interesting conversation on one of the pods very recently, and I'm just trying to remember which one. I think it was a Plastic Posse, talking about our themes for model shows now a thing of the past, because who actually goes to a model show because it's got a theme?
We do.
Yeah, I know we do.
We do all every year.
We always do one.
But would people actually go to the show because there's a theme for a stand, or are they going to a model show to see a model show? And it's irrespective of what the theme actually is, was the question. And it was a very interesting conversation.
Well, isn't each SIG a theme? So when you look at these special interest groups, like the Harriers or I can't even say it anymore, Jaguar, yeah, SIG, or
Yeah, Jaguar
SIG. I love the fact that you can see virtually every iteration of that aircraft there, which is great, and it's a theme. But when you get to something which is a club stand, it tends to be a bit of a free-for-all, because certain modelers like building tanks, other modelers like building aircraft. It's a bit hodgepodge. Sorry, I don't know the word in American for that. Hodgepodge. Have they got a word? Yeah.
It's more of a variety on a display stand, isn't it?
There is, but after a few years of going to Scale Model World, and here's the controversial bit, when you go to certain clubs, it's the same stuff all the time. And for me, when we do our Bolton thing, we encourage our Bolton members, look, here's the theme, and next year's theme is quite wide-ranging, which is Tamiya at 80 years. It's to build that particular kit, which again is variety, but the theme is to encourage all.
So if you build a model and you've completed it, how many circuits of the shows would you give that model to display?
all.
Mike does one, I would do two, and that'd be it.
Might sound just one.
I'll retire on.
I would rotate it. So if I was doing like the King George V, obviously that would be at Telford. I would rotate that round till next November, and then it'll go away. It doesn't say that it won't come out again, but in a few years' time, I'll probably give it 3 or 4 years, and then it'll possibly come back out again. But I agree with Wonga that there are a lot of models out there that have been there and have been continually going around the same circuit for years. And you can see as well where they've not travelled well. Things are starting to look a bit displaced. The colours are starting to go a bit odd. The major one is dust. The dust on them.
I was just going to say, there is nothing worse than seeing a really dusty model when you think, come on, man, just give it a clean.
That's why I don't like building aircraft with the canopies open. I would prefer them shut because it stops getting dust inside the canopy, because obviously dust attracts to models no matter what. Listeners will probably go nuts at this, but mine generally have a shower once a month.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
Shower once a month. Hurricane will go in, and obviously it's only dusty on top, and I'll just switch the shower on, and it's just a rain effect, and you can just see it all coming off, and it just flows away. And then just leave them to dry. Dries perfectly fine. Nothing happens to them. None of the varnish comes off. None of the decals come off. Everything's perfectly fine. But for me, it's a bit of a thing that if I was going to display a model, it needs to be cleaned before it's put on the table.
Yeah.
Mike, do you actually have a shower in the shower at the same time?
No.
Just wondered.
No. Now, if I was in the bath with King George V, then I'd probably be playing battleships in the bath.
Yeah.
Like I did when I was a kid with the Airfix 600 series, where you'd have Bismarck and HMS Hood.
I had HMS Ajax in the bath with me when I was 7.
Nobody say up Periscope, for God's sake.
Would be worse. You could have sat on it by accident and ended up with a funnel up there.
Torpedoes away!
Torpedo locked on deck.
Oh dear.
I have to say, I'd just give a shout out to the Great War SIG, because every time I see their display, it's fantastic and very thought-provoking, I have to say.
Yeah, it's good. I've seen them a few times. They are nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. The little trench dioramas and stuff are fantastic. They really are. And another one I saw that I was really impressed with at the Brampton show was the Victoria Cross SIG, and lots of very different models on the table, but each one has got a card and an explainer about why the person that was either flying, driving, or even if it's figures, what their story was behind receiving the Victoria Cross. And I read every single one on the table, and honestly, you get a bit of a lump in your throat when you're reading some of these things. It really is incredible.
That's a very good thing to do, that one.
Do you want cutting-edge detail for your kits? Then take a look at Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, run by USAF veteran Mike Reeves. With real-world aircraft experience as a crew chief, Mike knows exactly where accuracy counts. And today, he's bringing that knowledge to life with precision 3D printed parts. From seamless intakes and nozzles to dropped flaps, pods, pylons, and cockpit upgrades, Phase Hanger's prints capture the crisp edges and fine detail that limitations in injection molding just can't reproduce. From 1/72nd to 1/32nd scale, you'll find add-ons from Cold War classics to the latest frontline jets with frequent new additions to the product range. Every piece is designed by modelers, for modelers, and faithfully reproduced on state-of-the-art printers and shipped worldwide, and are ready to drop straight into your next build. With additions to the product line landing all the time, there's always something fresh to elevate your next build. Explore the full range at phasehangerresin.com and follow Phase Hanger on Facebook and Instagram for regular updates and inspiration. Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, authentic detail designed with a veteran's eye and available to modelers everywhere. Phase Hanger is a proud sponsor of the Beyond the Box Art podcast.
Brace yourselves. It's the Stash Inflation Report, the segment where wallets weep, self-control collapses, and new releases thunder in like a tsunami of temptation.
Let's get our flaps down and let's head skyward, because the aviation side of the Stash Inflation Report
is looking very healthy indeed this episode. Plenty of new plastic incoming for those who like their subjects with wings, props or afterburners. Armour Hobby are back with another stunner, the Dallas-built P51K Mustang in 72nd scale. This version swaps out the propeller and the caliper from the standard D model, and you get 3 cracking marking options, including one that's bound to tug on the nostalgia strings for the long-time Mustang fans. Expect Armour's usual superb surface detail and engineering. This one is an instant pre-order for many. Next up is Models Fit with a 72nd Dassault Mirage 2005F in ZSU service. Models Fit continued their march into the modern jet with the Mirage 2005F, complete with the Scalp EG/Storm Shadow missiles under the wing. Inside the box, there's 213 plastic parts, cartograph decals for 3 schemes, a neat photo-etch fret, and even adhesive masks to make the canopy work a bit less stressful. If you like your French jets, sleek, pointed, capable and causing sonic booms, this one's for you. Swad latest limited edition brings us 2 for 1, the Kitty Hawk Mark 1A, which is a P40E, and the Kitty Hawk Mark 4, which is a P40N, in a single dual combo boxing. Expect all the bells and whistles, multiple marking options, crisp moulding, photo etch, masks, and more detail than you can ever need on a P40. Perfect for the desert or the Pacific Theatre fans, it'll look brilliant side by side on the shelf. From Azure, now this one's definitely left field, not 1 but 2 boxings of the Martin Type 166 flying boat from Azure. Both in 72nd, both absolutely packed with character and both with some fascinating pre-war and wartime Dutch schemes. The first boxing gives you the bright pre-1940 yellow and blue options, right through to the captured examples in Japanese hands, complete with markings like Jiminy Cricket and Grasshopper. The late version continues the story, including one machine that escaped to Australia in 1942 and the other that ended up serving in the Thailand post-war, still showing the ghost of the Japanese roundels under the paint. If you like your aircraft obscure, colourful and with a proper story behind them, these are the ones to grab. Airfix dropped a bit of a bombshell, literally, with their surprise announcement of the new Mosquito variant. This kit includes 21 brand new parts, allowing you to build late war and post-war versions, including the bulge bomb bay with the legendary 4,000-pound cooker, a target towing winch and interior detail upgrades. The 3 schemes are included, showing the Mosquito's evolution from the B-16 at RAF Whitton in 1944 with the classic wartime bomber, the B-35 flown by squadron leader Rupert Oakley at Hems in 1950, and the TT-35, the bright yellow and black target towing version that survived into preservation. If you've already built one of Airfix's new tool Mozzies, you'll know what to expect: lovely fit, crisp detail, and an excuse to buy another one. Next up is from Micromere. Now this one is something truly offbeat, is the Blum & Voss BVP 193, a design that never made it off the drawing board. It was intended as a next-gen Stuka replacement with a pusher-prop layout and a variable incidence wing. I'm going to start that again because that word just threw me off. Now there's something truly offbeat from Micromere, the Blum & Voss BVP 193, a design that never made it off the drawing board. It was intended as a next-gen Stuka replacement with a pusher-prop layout and a variable incidence wing, a bit bonkers even by wartime German standards. But hey, if you like what-ifs and experimental subjects, Micromere have you covered. Future release from Wingsy Kits is currently still in design phase, and they're teasing their upcoming 1-48 Aichi D3A2 Val, the Imperial Japanese Navy's infamous dive bomber. Given their recent track record with fit and finesse, expectations are high. This could easily become a definitive Val in this scale when it lands. And finally, the head grabber, Tamiya's all-new 1-72nd F-14D Tomcat, completely new tooling, not a scaled-down clone of the 48 version, but clearly inspired by it, which means precision fit, slide moulding intakes, optional positions for the swing wings, boarding ladder, fuel probe, polycap stabilizers, and a full loadout, lantern pods, bombs and missiles. You even get 2 seated crew figures and 5 US Navy schemes to choose from. If it builds anything like the bigger brother, this is going to be an absolute gem, possibly the must-have kit of 2025. So whether you're into obscure flying boats, classic Mustangs, or Cold War cat killers, there's something in there for everyone.
and quite a few that will make the stash groan a bit louder this winter. That's it for aviation. Over to Dan for the AFVs and figures now.
Thanks, Boulders. Here we go with the latest armour and figures news. Starting off with something that should fit into both aviation and figures, Mitch's Military Models have just announced a pair of B-17 waist gunners, left and right side, in glorious 1/16 scale. They're available individually or as a set, and word is a limited number will be up for grabs at Telford this year. So if you're heading there, get in there early before they fly off the table. Lanmo Models are rolling out their take on the classic SDKFZ 222, the little four-wheeled scout car that never knew the meaning of subtle. Expect spring suspension, a metal barrel and a healthy dose of photo etch straight from the box. Due to hit shelves around December 2025, just in time to justify that Christmas treat for myself excuse. Next up, Gecko Models have gone large. Their 1/16 scale Marder 2 will absolutely dominate your display case, or the dining table if you're brave. It's packed with detail, plastic injection parts, a resin mantlet cover, a turned metal barrel, and photo etch details that have even the bravest modelers reaching for the Optivisor. This one's a bit different. International ACO Mark III cargo truck from HobbyLink Japan. A rugged little workhorse with Aussie DNA. It's ideal for diorama fans who want something that's not painted dungle gelb for once. Expect crisp moulding, a distinctive look and plenty of weathering potential in 1/35 scale. And to round things off, ACE or ACE Models bring us the US G7106 in a compact 1/72 scale workhorse with a rich history. It first saw action during Operation Torch in 1942, later helping to build the Alaska Highway and the Canal Pipeline. A solid little kit for those who like their vehicles small, but historically mighty. So there you go, a healthy mix of the big, the small, and the beautifully detailed. Remember, it's not stash building, it's future productivity insurance. Now let's swap tracks for waves. Nevs, over to you for the nautical.
Thanks, Dan. So currently in the Starling Models proverbial dry dock is a 1/700 scale waterline kit of the Royal Navy frigate from 1968. There will be two versions of this resin kit, an early version armed with Bofors anti-aircraft guns, and a late version armed with Sea-Cat missiles. Starling are currently expecting both versions to release in November this year. They are putting to sea yet again with two 350th scale releases of a pair of Japanese, these being the battle cruiser Congo. And then last but not least, I wanted to do a little exclusive on a 1/350th scale battleship coming from Chuanyu model ship in China. This is the A150 class battleship. Now, for the uninitiated, this is the follow-on to the Japanese Yamato, but it's armed with 20-inch guns. Most historians agree that the A150 would have used the same sleek Yamato hull, but armed with 6 main guns. But this kit is a stretched hull version, armed with 8 main guns. So it is taking an already ginormous 1/350th and making it require planning permission to actually complete it. The kit will be a 3D printed hull and parts, brass gun barrels, and a few threads of photo etch, including a brass rear deck. Definitely one to watch out for if you want to build a model the size of a small family car. As we're recording, there has been some breaking news. Great Wall Hobby have announced a new 1/32 Grumman F6 F3 Hellcat. So far, only CAD has been released and some pictures from a recent trade show in the Far East, with 3D prints of the engine cowling and engine assembly, but all is looking good with the detail so far. And with that, let's wrap up this episode's stash inflation report. A lot of incoming excuses to tempt your wallet out and have time to think where you're going to hide your new purchases from your better half.
Visit scalemodelpodcast.com, your hub for the best scale modelling pods, because finding great content shouldn't take longer than hunting for lost photo etch.
Fishcop Models, elevating scale modeling to an art form. Experience highly detailed 3D printed upgrade parts that bring true authenticity to your builds. Creators of the acclaimed Rolls-Royce Merlin engine set for both the Kotari Spitfire and the Dambusters set for the Border Models Avro Lancaster. For bespoke design and printing, our service is as precise as it is personal, all at a reasonable price. Please take a look at our products on www.fishcopcompany.de. Shipping is available for all of our products worldwide.
Behind every aftermarket innovation is someone who truly understands modelers. Precision by Passion celebrates those who don't just supply the detail, they are the detail.
Right then, Benchmates, we are joined by Scott Taylor from SMS in Australia. Good morning, Scott.
G'day guys, how are you?
We're well, thank you very much. Okay, we will jump in with the first question we've got for you. He says, going to his other screen. So, Scott, for listeners who might not know, can you give us a quick overview of the SMS lacquer range and what makes it different from other brands?
Well, our lacquer range, the thing that puts us apart from everything else is that it's airbrush ready. It's as simple as that. It's high pigment density. You can get better coverage in less coats, and it's airbrush ready straight out of the bottle. So all we got to do is give it a good shake, pour in the airbrush, and spray it at about 15 psi. Okay,
and is there a recommended thinner if anyone wants to actually make it even thinner, or would you recommend just spraying it straight out of the bottle?
If you wanted to add extra thinner, it's perfectly fine as well. We formulate it in such a way that it's airbrush ready out of the bottle for the majority of people. But for people who are a bit more experienced and want to change the viscosity a bit, you just need to add some lacquer thinners, general purpose thinners, if you have it in the UK, all purpose thinners. Mr. Leveling thinner works, Tamiya lacquer thinners, as long as it's got the acetone component in it, it'll be perfectly fine to use.
Okay. Luke.
Lacquer paints often divide opinions. Some swear by them for smooth finishes like myself, and others are wary of fumes and the handling of them. How do you approach that balance as a manufacturer?
In general, all paints can be dangerous to a certain point, some obviously more than others. Situation, and the acrylic lacquer does contain some solvents that are known to be harmful to people, but in large volumes. The volumes that we've formulated ours at make it safer than generally if you're going to use something a bit more harsh, like a nitrocellulose. We've formulated ours to be safe to work on plastics, and at the same time, it reduces the amount of harsh solvents that are used, which exposure to humans is not overly dangerous in small volumes. So we try and trade that off just by trying to adjust the formulas like that so we can get that trade off, so we can keep the same finishes and the same product things. Yeah, that's the same. We get the same finishes, same sort of stuff like that, whilst we make sure it's safe for people to use. So generally with lacquers, it's as long as you're in a well ventilated area, so not in a confined room. So you've got windows open, got a spray booth going, nice ventilation happening, and you're wearing a face mask. They're perfectly safe for anyone to use.
Yeah, brilliant. I was going to say, I know the advantages of lacquers because I do use lacquers and love them. But for our listeners, in terms of chemistry and formulation, what are the biggest advantages of lacquers over acrylics or enamels?
The two big ones are, one is ease of use. So they're very forgiving. So if you spray them on a little bit too thick, they tend to level themselves out relatively easily or relatively fast. If you do screw up, you can sand them back very easy. You can strip them off very easily. Whereas you've got an acrylic water base, it'll create that hard skin, which can either not adhere properly to the surface, or it can be a pain in the butt to actually remove if you do make a mistake. If you forget to clean your airbrush, which is one of the big ones a lot of people do, they finish for the session, tip their paint out back into the container, and they forget to clean the airbrush out because they're sidetracked or something. With an acrylic lacquer, all you need to do is just put a little bit of thinness back into your airbrush, and it will help reconstitute the paint back into a liquid form, which then you can flush through your airbrush. If you had that problem with a water base and it dried inside your airbrush, it's not going to be a fun time.
No, it's a full strip down, isn't it? Full clean out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the key advantages of an acrylic lacquer is that they're just so easy to use, and to get a finish a professional looking finish is quite simple with a lacquer.
Yep. Absolutely. My painting improved the very first time I used them. And that's what I was impressed with lacquer, is that it was easy. The very first time I used it, I didn't really have to get used to it.
Yeah. I've tried all different paints over the years because I'm a modeler myself. Before I did this, I've tried nearly every brand you can think of that was out 20 odd years ago.
Just a quick question, Scott. Is this not your background then? The making up of paints and all that kind of stuff? This is completely left of field for you?
Yeah. Well, I've learned everything as I've gone. So my background was as pretty much a hobbyist.
Okay.
I originally started this company to make a change in my life because at the time I was working as a gardener and as a landscaper, and it was a job that I wasn't going to do for the rest of my life because, as you can imagine, it's not really good for the body. The exit plan was to try and find something else to do, and I wanted to zone in on my favorite hobby, which was building models, and then end up settling on making paint.
Okay.
And we've just gone along in that time and learned all the tricks of the trade as I've gone.
It's a big gamble, but it's been a great success for you because you're literally worldwide now, aren't you?
Yeah, we're in the major markets, yeah. Yeah, we're in Australia obviously, but New Zealand, UK.
Do you there in the US?
The US is a bit of a stickler at the moment.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, with tariffs and that.
Yeah, we've been in the US for a long time, but with all this current upheaval with tariffs and de minimis exemptions and things, we're no longer currently shipping to the USA, but we are shipping to Canada. So we do have sort of a way to get our products through Canada into the US.
With tightening regulations in Europe, especially around volatile organic compounds and solvents, how is this impacting your ability to sell or distribute SMS lacquers internationally?
Well, these new regulations aren't overly affecting what we do because of the percentages. Our products still fall within the accepted percentages. I have to look closely at some of the European regulations because each country is different, because you have the EU overreaching EU regulations, but then each country has their own version as well. Yeah, this is happening worldwide as well. You've noticed, we've all heard recently with some of the Canadian changes that were made, which was, from what my understanding is, it's a certain solvent that's used in the propellants in spray cans. It's an environmental change in Canada regulations. So then that's what we've heard about, all these heavy brands getting banned in Canada. It's actually the spray cans, not the paint itself. I was speaking with our Canadian distributors the other day about this, and they were a bit concerned. And the actual solvent that is being regulated now in Canada doesn't fall within our product because it's not actually in our products, which is similar to some of the new regulations that are coming into place into the EU.
Following on a pretty similar topic are you already working on alternative formulations or low VOC options to get ahead of regulatory hurdles in the EU market?
Yes, we did have a water-based range for a while, but it wasn't overly successful here in Australia, so we pushed that to the side. But we've got new formulations that we've been trialling to see if we can bring back a water-based range in our airbrush colours. It's looking promising at the moment, but it's more a market demand than anything. Here in Australia, our demand is for our acrylic lacquers. Same with you guys in the UK. Everyone wants our acrylic lacquers. It's trying to formulate a new product based on this. We need to build up that demand to meet at the same time.
The accuracy of colours, how far do you go get that right? Because I know that you're not on your own with the airbrush ready, as I can see you smiling there.
Yeah.
You've got another company, some of the colours are a bit off, should I say. In what lengths do you go to get that accuracy as close to as you can?
There's different things we do. Obviously, when we're dealing with federal standards and RAL and that sort of stuff, there's a standard, so we can just manufacture that to that standard. It's common knowledge. It's public domain. We don't go down the rabbit hole of colour scaling because we like to produce the colour and then let the modeler decide what they want to do with the colour, because not everyone has the same opinion on colour, as we all know. Everyone's got
modelers, you know what they're like, they can a cool bunch.
Yep. Everyone's got their own opinion on what's the right shade of grey for whatever aircraft they're building. So we provide, when it comes to the formulations with FS and RAL and British standards and Australian standards, we just use the public domain stuff. But when it comes to the historical stuff, so your World War II, German, British,
kind of aiming at, yeah.
Yeah. So what we've done in the past is I've done myself a lot of research where I find many different varying opinions, and then I collate those opinions to what everyone thinks these colours are. Generally, it's like maybe up to half a dozen colours. shades of, say, Dunkel Gold. There was like 6 different versions that everyone said was right. So what I tend to do then is take the happy medium. So work out what they are, get the average between them all, and then we produce a color based on that. And then we don't brand ourselves as historically accurate colors. We produce our colors as a good representation of what we thought the colors would be. And then we leave it up to the modeler to decide whether it's the right color or it needs adjusting.
Okay.
Scott, how do you see the future of lacquer paints in Europe? Are we looking at restrictions, reformulation, or even potential bans in certain regions?
I'd be leaning more towards reformulation, because you also got to think, in an industrial setting, a lot of more harsher versions, like hotter chemical versions of acrylic lacquers are used, industrial equipment, things like that. So they'd need to be changing your formula across multiple different industries to suit. So I wouldn't expect to see a ban outright, because then you're affecting all these different industries that are currently, a lot of these are changing. They're bringing in a water-based formula, or they're changing to a low VOC formula. But I doubt that there'd be an overreaching ban, to be honest. I think it's more going to be a reformulation, so just reducing the percentage of certain solvents in the paint mixes.
Yeah. I have a quick question to follow on this topic. Do you think all of these increasing regulations are necessary?
Yes and no. Yes, definitely it's for people's safety, because unfortunately not everyone is careful with what they do. They're a bit haphazard, but at the same time, what we do as hobbyists doesn't affect us as much as if you were using a paint like this constantly during the day. So just say you're an automotive spray painter and you're using automotive paints, then fair enough. You're working around it all day, every day. But as hobbyists, we might get maybe an hour every so often, once or twice a week, maybe, to airbrush in that sense.
Yeah, it's just finding the right level of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, thanks. Can you share any behind-the-scenes stories about testing and developing SMS paints to make them safer without compromising the great performance you get out of them?
Basically, the very first production run we did, we reformulated the entire lot. We got some tests. This is back in late 2015, early 2016. We got our first production materials in to test them out, and they were very chemically hot. They were very strong in the sense of the solvents and the smells. So we went through and reformulated the entire lot to lower certain solvents that we used, so to reduce that hotness, so they were able to be sprayed on the plastic without any ill effect. And then also at the same time, reducing those solvents removed the overpowering smells that were giving us headaches, and reintroduced it with a sweet smelling sort of aromatic to it to change that around. And since then, over the years, we've gradually just changed things around. So a little bit of more of this, a little bit of less of that in the formulations. So over the course of nearly 10 years now, we've got to a point where we're very happy with the safety levels for using our paints, and as well as the ease of use and the finishes that everyone can get.
Yeah, no, it is brilliant using your paints, to be honest. As you said, you've used a lot of different paints in your time as a hobbyist, and I think a lot of the general hobbyists use different types of paints, and I can't say that, I know you're talking about solvents, the SMS paints do smell good in terms of yeah, it's good. It is good stuff. It's all
the Tom Ford of paints.
You're almost fighting the urge not to take the mask off. I'm joking. Yeah, no, they are an absolute joy to work with. So you can really see the development which has gone into them.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's one of those things.
They're the best smelling paint going, to be honest with you.
I'll be honest, if someone cracked open a few bottles of different paints, I could smell ours from a mile away. But we've got a very distinct
yes, definitely
aroma to ours. That's yours because out there. Yeah, it's a sort of it's a different smell, but it's good.
It's a good smell.
Yeah.
Scott, beyond regulation and all that, you've already covered that. What challenges do you face exporting SMS paints from Australia to modelers in Europe and beyond?
Our biggest hurdle is the fact that they're classed as a DG product, a dangerous goods product, because they're flammable paint. They're class 3 flammable. That's because the solvents that are in them, when they're atomized into an airborne sort of that mist, they become very volatile. So you don't want to put a match near, obviously. You don't want to spray airbrush into a flame. But in liquid form, they're not. But our biggest hurdle is getting that across the oceans because we can't send them by in large volumes by air. So we have to ship to our distributors via sea freight. And sea freight just opens up a whole can of worms that is not fun at all. They're having to deal with the ports authorities here in Melbourne, in Victoria, here in Australia, and then dealing with all the ports overseas. Every port is different. Every shipping route is different. Every time we ship something, there's new red tape to go around it. It's frustrating. I do have guys that do this for me, but it's still stressful for me. I'm trying to get this all organised. So, for example, we send to our distributors in the UK who are Albion alloys. So they're over in Poole in Dorset, and we send.
We know Matthew.
Yeah, we're doing Matthew and Martin all the time. They're great blokes. So we've got a pallet heating there at the moment, which should be there in a couple of weeks, just in time for Telford. To get to the UK, it has to go through Singapore, and at the port of Singapore, if anyone has done surface shipping before in large volumes, it's not the easiest port to get through, and it goes to. So we'll leave here from Melbourne, where we are in Ballarat, which is like an hour from Melbourne, goes down to the ports, gets on the boats, goes to Singapore, then switches boats in Singapore. And that's where most of our headaches begin because there's a lot of regulations we have to meet there. And then once it gets on the boat there, then it heads over to the Southampton, to the ports there, unloads there, and then trucked over to our friends at Albion. US, because our main distributor over there.
What kind of time span is that? What are you looking at?
For the UK, it's about 2 months, 8 to 10 weeks. It usually takes us 1 to 2 weeks to actually find a spot on a boat. We can't just go, it'll go out tomorrow. So we've got to book it in, and then we've got to wait until there's a spot given to us, and then we have to organise a freight down, and then gets on a ship, and then it's got to meet certain time frames to get on the boat. If it gets stuck in Singapore, it might be there for 1 or 2 weeks, and then, so it could be 8 to 10 weeks from when it leaves the door until it arrives in the UK. So our last shipment, which I think is due in about a week or two, we shipped at the start of August.
Wow.
And sea freight's not fast. It's very slow, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like to the USA, when we ship there, it'll go, our distributors in Florida over there. So but we can't send directly to Florida because it's the other side of the country. So we've got to send it to Long Beach in California. Then it gets trucked from there or trained across from.
That's a long way.
Yeah, it's a long way. So that's usually 8 to 10 weeks as well. The Canada one we just sent was about 6 weeks, but then it's stuck in customs at the moment. And the fastest one we do is New Zealand, which is 2 weeks.
And that's pretty much on your doorstep as well, isn't it, really?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, so it's, yeah.
In the grand scheme of things.
In the grand scheme of things.
Have you ever tried walking from Australia to New Zealand?
Yeah, probably faster. We'll swim across.
No, but in modern transport these days.
Yeah, the international sort of things. It's just dealing with the freight because our products is classed. To be honest, even if we had a water-based product, which we've had before and we have shipped out before, we still have to follow the same regulations. Even though that product's not a DG, we've still got that same paperwork and red tape we're still going to go through to get it out the door. Just sea freight is just a nightmare to deal with.
Because it's DG, does that mean it's special packaging and really got to go to town on it?
It's not so much certain packaging. They really recommend the shipping companies would rather specialise packaging when it comes to air freight because we can air freight these, but it does cost a lot more than what the product's worth to actually air freight those, which is why we don't do it. So when it comes to sea freight, as long as it's packed sternly and it's a certain type of box, that's like not a specific box, but it had to be a certain type of fiberboard box, which we use anyway as a part of our normal shipping. They're perfectly acceptable. Yeah.
You've got a duck there.
It's a magpie at the front, I think. It's a magpie. I'm surprised you heard that because, yeah, we've got a lot of magpies out there because they're behind our factory. Because
your microphone's really good, mate. It's picking everything up.
We've got where we are in our factory here, I'm at the office, it's out the back, so like a little water area, so like a little lagoon thing, and water, yeah, and it's got all the birds. So this time of morning, at 7 o'clock in the morning, all the birds are coming out and they're chirping because it's a spring day.
How much paint do you make in a day, do you reckon?
It depends on how busy we are at the moment.
Do you base it on orders or do you just...
Yeah, based on orders. Depends on, again, how busy we are. So at the moment, we're just dealing with Australian customers. We've got no internationals at the moment because they've all been shipped out already. So we're waiting for the loads to arrive. So we've got no current orders heading out overseas, but we're doing all our local stuff here, all our retailers here. Making paint supplies, we could probably... We run production 5 to 6 hours a weekday, Monday to Thursday, sometimes Friday if we're flat out busy. Then that pumps us out probably a couple of thousand bottles a day.
Wow.
Just to restock everything. And then orders, as the orders come in, depends on which retailer, how often they're ordering, how much they're ordering. We could easily be shipping out that sort of amount every day to even more. Yeah, some of the large retailers will order a couple of thousand bottles. Some will order a couple of hundred bottles. It fluctuates in between. Yeah, it just really depends on how busy we are with the customer orders. And at the moment, we've caught up all our production because we were behind for quite a while. Because when we moved factories, a couple of years ago now,
I'm assuming you've gone to a bigger factory, bigger turner.
Yeah. So a brief history on that. We run this company out of our garage at home for a while.
Same here. I run mine out of my garage as well. Yeah, so I know what that's like.
So I did that for 4.5 years. And then when COVID kicked off, we got super busy. And that was when I was able to give up the landscaping business and then move into this full time.
Is that kind of when you went international? Because to be honest with you, you mentioned earlier on that you started in 2016 to 15?
16, yeah.
I'd never heard of you up until fairly recently.
Internationally, we started, our first international was USA, which was back in 2018. And then we started shipping small amounts to them. And then when COVID happened, everything went busy. And that was when we first moved into the UK. And then New Zealand from there, and then Canada's only been recent. So when COVID happened, we got super busy, and then my wife lost her job because of the COVID restrictions. So then she had nothing to do, so she came and worked with me. So we were both working in a small garage home, trying to keep up with orders, and it was getting busier and busier, and we were ready to strangle each other because it was getting very packed and tight, and we're trying to work, and it was summertime and it was very hot, and it was like, all right, well, we've got to do something about this. So then we end up leasing a dedicated factory space. We outgrew that in 2 years. So then we end up purchasing the property we're in now, and which is, it's over 300 square meters, including mezzanine.
Scott, does heat affect production of painting? Because I didn't know if heat would be a factor in a country like Australia.
No, the heat doesn't affect the paint at all. The heat affects us.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But you can produce it, and it.
Yeah, especially now because our production's done up on the mezzanine level.
Yeah, you're starting summer now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's starting to kick into summer. We're in spring now, so today is one of our warmest days in 6 months, they're saying. So it's going to be around 24 degrees.
24. That's quite comfortable, though. It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice day. But then summertime here, it's where we are. It's wintertime's freezing cold, as in it gets into the minuses and that, and low doesn't.
Really?
Yeah, early mornings here, you can easily get into -2, -3 in the middle of winter, and then top of 8 or 9 degrees at most in the middle of winter, and that's normal. But then in summertime, it's the complete opposite. We could have tops of 45.
Wow,
crazy.
Not comfortable.
Yeah, it's rare that we get 45 here, but if we can get 38, 39, that's normal in the middle of summer in January, February.
Crazy.
So, for those that don't know your ranges, and heaven knows why they wouldn't, but can you give our BenchMates an overview of what your product ranges actually include?
So we've got our main range, which is our premium airbrush ready lacquers, acrylic lacquers. That's 230 colours in that range. And that includes general use colours, so your blacks, your whites, your clears, that sort of stuff, along with all the military, aircraft, train, so everything that solid colour-wise is in the premium range. We've got the metallics range, which is 20 colours at the moment. Then that is your silvers and your golds, your bronzes, your coppers. We've got 20 different shades there. And then we've got pearls, 30 different pearls.
So is that for vehicles, pearlescent?
Yeah, pearlescent. So for cars, even a lot of sci-fis, people build Gundam and things like that, they'll like to use our pearls as well. There's 30 different colours in. There's some beautiful colours in that range. There's the crystal colours, which are also a pearl. They're like, see, have you ever seen Mr. Colour crystal colours? They're very similar to those.
What's so special about those, Scott?
They're an interference type of pearl, so they look white, but they've got a shimmer of colour. So you frame over white, you'll get a nice shimmer of colour.
Do you do one of them that changes colour, like a transition? Do you do that kind of colour?
Yeah, we do colour. We've got colour shifts as well. The colour shifts, we've got 19 different colour shifts, and they're the ones
Wow.
So depending on the angle you look at, the colour coming back to you is going to be completely different. That's the way they work. The lights transfer through the pigment. They're translucent, these pigments. And as the light comes through, they reflect back different colours because they're multifaceted pigment. And so it's that way, depending on the amount of light going in and the angle you're looking at, you'll see a completely different colour every time. So we've got 19 versions of them. Then we've got stuff, special effects colors like a prismatic, which is a full rainbow effect. We've got some glow in the dark, all those special colors. We've got an automotive colors range. Now, the automotive colors range is focused heavily only on Australian colors. So this is your Australian Ford and Holden colors from the 1960s and 70s and the 80s. So your HQ Holdens, HJ Holdens, your XY, XW Falcons, the classic Australian cars, because we work closely with a company called Diecast Distributors Australia, or DDA, who produce a range of 1/24th scale plastic kits. We work closely with them, so they release a kit. We release the colours to match the kit. And then we've got other bits and pieces that go along as well. So we've got tools and accessories and stuff like that. So,
Do you do primers and clear coats, Scott?
Yes. So we do primers, do 4 different primers. So black, white, and grey. So your standard sort of 3 shades of surface primer. And then we also have an etch primer. So etch is good for metals or resins, which helps with paint adhesion.
That's interesting. I hadn't actually thought about an etch prime for resin before.
Makes it bite, doesn't it?
Is that an airbrush ready or is that a brush on?
Airbrush ready. Yeah, the etch primer, it's got a mild etching acid in it, which helps it adhere to the metal. So once it adheres to the metal, then the next paints will adhere to the etch primer. It actually works the exact same way with resin.
Yeah.
It's not really needed for 3D print resin, but like for a cast resin, it's really handy to use.
And your clear coats are matte, semi-gloss?
Yeah. So we've got 3 different clear coats in our acrylic lacquer range. So we've got standard clear gloss, which is about a 75% gloss rating. Then we've got our flat clear, which is a dead flat clear. And then we've got super clear, which is our high gloss, which is about 91% gloss rating, which is the highest gloss we can make.
Would you recommend that for model cars?
Yes. Yeah, I use that all the time when I'm doing cars and that. The super clear will give you a nice high shine finish to it without having to worry about mixing. So we also do it. We also do a 2K product as well, but that's more a professional sort of thing than a.
So with that, so this is something I'm considering having a go at in the future, because obviously the guys from one of the new model car podcasts are badgering me to have a go at doing a vehicle. With the clear coats, would you put almost a dust layer down first, let that go off, and then a more wet coat over the top?
So you don't want to go on too heavy, because if you drench on an acrylic, like I say, the thing with lacquers, I should really point out, as you probably know, but listeners might not, if you put on too much lacquer on top of lacquer, the solvents will leach down and into the layer below and reactivate it and then they'll all marble together.
Re-wet it in a way.
If you do that with a clear coat, it's going to make a mess. So the general rule of thumb that I follow myself when I'm doing this, when I'm painting the cars, is you do a very light coat first. So it won't look glossy. It'll dull off because getting full coverage is getting a light, like a ductile. It does coat, yeah. So you want something for the next ones to teeth into and grab onto.
Yeah.
So you do that light coat first, let it dry. Do a second coat, same again, light coat. And then when you get to the third or fourth coats, then you start going a little bit heavier. But you got to make sure you put it aside and let it dry enough before you put the next layer on. You can't just keep layering it in one section.
How long would you recommend in between?
Depends. There's a lot of variables in that. So it depends on temperature at the moment. So if it's in the winter and it's cold, it's not going to dry fast. But if it's in the middle of summer, it could dry really fast.
Most are really quick, aren't they? Paints like yours are within a minute, are pretty touch dry.
Yeah. A couple of minutes, they're touch dry, so you can handle them.
Yeah, you can pick them up.
But again, the more you put on, the softer the paint's going to be underneath.
Is that included the gloss as well? Because I've always found glosses take a little longer.
Yeah.
I'd give that an hour before I'd go anywhere near that.
Yeah, you don't really want to touch the clear coat until it's dry anyway, because you could run the risk of leaving fingerprints and stuff on it. With a solid color paint, it's less likely for that to happen. And if it does, it's quite easily to fix up. You can just dust over it a bit more.
Is that your modelling genre, as it were?
I do absolutely everything. I never used to do cars, but since I've been working with the guys from DDA, I do a lot of cars now because I do it for promotional reasons, but I do them. But my main thing that I started off with was Gundam. So I did a lot of Gundam and then reached out. And then my main passion that I really love is dinosaurs.
Get out of here.
So I do a lot of 3D printed dinosaurs now because you can get a lot of kits and that, but that's a lot easier to.
I've just bought the Tamiya, that flying one. The
Pterodon, yeah.
Yeah, my son wants that. My son wants one of those.
That flying one.
I've literally just picked that up. £7. I thought it's 5 pieces. So straight into Wongi's zone there.
Scott, have you got your products into anywhere that's not scale modelling?
Not really. I do have a lot of people.
I just wondered have you got any airbrushes guys that do airbrushing for some motorcycle helmets, trucks, and the guys that do that, would they use your product?
Oh yes, yeah. There's a lot of people that do.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that. We've got a lot of guys that do fishing lures.
Fishing what?
Fishing lures are really big here. So there's guys that do custom lures, and they use our colour shift, their pearls, our fluoros, things like that to really make the lures pop, and then they catch fish with them. We go
Brilliant.
I didn't know you did all them weird transitional colours at all. I didn't know that was part of your thing.
Yeah. That's one of our biggest claim to fame is the colour shifts and pearls, because while a lot of people are doing them now, we were one of the first hobby companies to really push it. And we've probably got, I'd have to double check, but I'm confident that we've got probably the largest range in the hobby world in terms of pearls and colour shifts and special effects. And we're constantly doing limited edition stuff. So we find a cool colour and we'll release a certain amount of those in colour shifts and things like that. So to get people excited for our products. But yeah, that's our main claim to fame is those pearls and colour shifts.
I'd always say for listeners, if anybody, quite a few of us obviously do use lacquers, and I've converted to using lacquers, I've found that a bottle goes so much further than other paints.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's to.
What's in there? Is that 30 mils?
Yeah, 30 mils. Because we formulate ours to be pigment heavy. So we've got a lot of the binders that are in the product itself. And then with our colorants, we up the dosage. So then we can keep strong pigmentation, but having a really thin viscosity.
I'll tell you what I like.
Yeah.
The fact that there's still glass.
Yeah.
There's so many manufacturers now going over to plastic. The fact that there's still glass.
The reason why we went with glass is because anything but glass is porous. Even plastic that's meant to be airtight, eventually the product can leach through, not physically, but it can evaporate through. So we went with glass because, one, it's safe. It's a lot safer to be working with glass bottle when it comes to a product like ours. And you don't need to squeeze the bottle to get out with a water base. Most people using it for figure painting and things like that, so they need to put a couple of drops out so that they squeeze it out. That's fair. But with ours, because it's just a pour and spray, you don't need to pour it in another container to thin it. You can just pour it straight in the airbrush. We chose a bottle that was perfect to pour in and pour out. And yeah.
Okay, so what's next for SMS then? Any new colours or finishes or even new product lines you'd like to tease for our benchmates?
At the moment, our range is pretty much where it's at. We're quite happy with that. So we're working on some limited edition items. So just a few different colour shifts and pearls. We're continuously working on expanding our range. So at the moment, our main focus is on the automotive range. So as more of these DDA kits come out, then we do more colours to suit these Australian cars. Saying that though, just because they're Australian colours doesn't mean they can't be used on anything. There's some beautiful colours in that range. And if you're into the auto colours and you're into building cars, these colours would be great on any car. It doesn't need to be Australian. We're doing a heap of those. And at the moment, we're trying to keep on top of things and working on some stuff behind the scenes, but nothing super exciting coming in short term.
Just a quickie to let you know, Brownie's working on a car right now.
Yes, the Musaru Cup this year is a car build.
You let me guess, Julian picked that one, did he?
Let's put it this way, Julian's laughing his socks off because Dave's building it.
Dave's doing it.
Oh, Dave's building it, jeez.
And he hates the idea of the vehicle.
Yeah, Dave doesn't like anything that's not a rocket.
He was huffing and puffing on the last podcast. He didn't sound very happy about it already.
What about you, Luke? Have you done any cars yet?
I haven't done any cars. I have done, oh my goodness, I have done a motorbike, but
yeah, same thing.
We're not getting another look at that. I'm just going to say that. It's something which I do want to potentially do at some point, but because my following on YouTube is so very much just aircraft, and that is what I like to do with SMS paints.
Oh, get out of your comfort zone, mate. You've got to do it. You've got to do it.
Yeah, I know, but I like planes. They're more fun, in my opinion.
Have you got on this bench at the minute, Scott? Anything good?
No, the bench is clear at the moment. I haven't had any time to do anything the last few months. So yeah, I've got a couple of big kits I want to build at the moment, a couple of Gundams that I wanted to do because I want to get back into them because I haven't done them for a while, but I just haven't had time.
Do you know, a Gundam is something I have never done.
Oh, if you pick the right kit, they're very fun. If you're a traditional, like a military modeler, you can quite easily build some of the...
Same as Luke, I'm predominantly aircraft.
Hang on, let me just do the quick role reversal. Go on, Mark, get out of your comfort zone. What are you doing?
Anyway, coming back to the main theme, new products. What's the chances of a Blue Diamonds blue then?
I'll have to look into it and see. Because the beauty with our stuff is there's a lot of colours that overlap with other things. So we could have something very similar to it, or could be just something that it could be something simple as take this colour and add this colour, and there you go. Yeah, I'd have to look into it and see.
Because the 132nd Hunter is going to take a lot of paint.
I'd imagine.
Exactly. And it's one of the main colour schemes in the Revels boxing for next year. It's going to be a biggie.
No, that's something to look at.
To get the colour, they didn't want to have Roundel Blue. They just literally opened cans of Roundel Blue and added some white in.
That was going to be my guess of what the mix would be, because it does. Because our PL04 blue, just our standard blue, it's a near match, like a 99% match for Roundel Blue. So I would have suggested just, probably a 50-50 mix, maybe 25-75 white to blue.
It wasn't even that. I think it was only about a 10% white I think they added in. It's literally a shade lighter than Roundel Blue.
Okay. Yeah, because you also have to factor in the way colours change as they dry as well. So sometimes, depending, and it also depends on the paint formula itself. The colour itself might not change if you got two different types of paint that are the exact same colour, but if you added the same ratio of white to the same, both the same ratio to both, it could end up looking completely different because the way the pigments actually work, the tinting actually works in the paint. So yeah, it wouldn't be exactly the same as what they would have done in the factory, but yeah.
Okay, Scott, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you found this
thank you very much for having me on.
Not too tortuous, especially at this time of the morning for you.
No, it's all fine. It's a nice, beautiful morning to get up early, so it's fine.
Excellent. Okay, hopefully we can actually speak to you again in the future, and you never know, perhaps even entice you over to Telford one year.
Yeah, hopefully it's one of the things to get over there. It'd be great.
Okay, Scott, thanks very much, and we will hopefully speak to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Yeah, Scott. Bye now.
Cheers.
Please support veterans, service personnel and blue light services through scale modelling therapy. Visit modelsforheroes.org.uk, where plastic, paint and purpose come together.
Welcome to another River Counters Minute, brought to you by Matters of Scale. We're excited to announce our new partnership with Inside the Armour, better known as ITA3, an established UK brand known for their high-quality scale model upgrade parts. These parts are designed in the UK and printed in the USA by Matters of Scale, saving US buyers on shipping and tariffs. We're now offering ITA3's 148 scale upgrade parts for the Airfix Jaguar, like exhausts, landing gear and seats, plus many other fantastic additions on our site. When it comes to ITA3 parts, they truly stand out for how detailed and well-researched they are. These upgrades are designed by scale modelers for scale modelers, which means every piece is carefully fitted and tested to ensure it fits perfectly in the kits they're meant for. All the fine details are beautifully sculpted in 3D and rendered to perfection. These parts are truly top-notch. Visit us at www.mattersofscale.com to explore the full lineup and let us know what else you'd love to see.
Now, we have a real treat for you. And I must admit, I've been looking forward to this guest for a very long time. We've had a lot of requests to have a sci-fi guest, and boy, we've pulled something special out of the bag for you. We're joined by a true creative legend of British television science fiction. If you've ever watched the Liberator streak across the screen in Blake 7, wondered how K9 in Doctor Who was operated during filming, or even a robot sparked into life on Robot Wars, you've seen this man's handiwork. From his groundbreaking years in the BBC visual effects department to his lifelong passion for scale modelling and storytelling, he has inspired generations to pick up a knife, some plastic, and make something extraordinary. Author, model maker, innovator, and special effects genius. It's a real honour to welcome to Beyond the Box Art, Matt Irvine. Matt, you were part of the BBC's golden age of practical effects on the likes of Tomorrow's World, Doctor Who, Blake 7, etc. What was a typical day like in the visual effects department back then, as obviously a lot of the products we use today and the thought of 3D printing was itself a piece of science fiction?
3D printing never got onto Tomorrow's World, although I think, do you know who invented 3D printing? He says he probably did, and I think it was right. It was Arthur C. Clarke.
Yes.
Arthur C. Clarke invented the communication satellite. Arthur was the first to point out No, he didn't. He just pointed out the orbit. It should be. He said Newton knew the orbit. He didn't know about communications satellites. He said knew the orbit. But he said, I think he called it a 3D photocopier, which is what it basically is. But anyway, that's by the by. That's pretty useless information. What was a typical day like? Well, the trouble was there wasn't a typical day. In theory, in the effects department, we were a 9 to 5 job. Actually, I think it was 9:30 to 5:30. As long as you did your hours and got the work done, it didn't really matter. We didn't clock in or out or anything like that. If you're in studios, that was slightly different. Let's put it this way. You were either in the workshop working on stuff, building stuff, or as a designer, probably doing the budget, which is what we mostly did as designers, or you were in a studio, or on location, i.e. you were actually making the program. So I suppose that's the difference. If we're in the workshop, I remember when I moved up here, I still was going in for 5 years. I'd leave at 9, I'd be in my office at 10. It was over 50 miles. Couldn't do it today. I'd arrive time to go home probably. But then, yes, that was fine. You could just go on the M1 down to the Junction 1, North Circle around and cut through North Action. That's where Western Avenue or workshops were. If you're on location or in studios, it was slightly different because obviously time, well, I suppose you could split those into two. If you're in studios, the studios there were basically 9 till 10 in the evening, 2200 hours. They were long days, 13-hour days. And you could be doing 3 of them in a row. They could overrun. So you're talking of a lot of hours, and we were all a lot younger then. If we're on location, it was slightly easier because we all had breakfast on location, did the job, cleared up, went to the hotel. So that's your two basic differences. Frankly, if I was going into the studio as an assistant, I'd be at the beck and call of my designer. Here's your bench, get on with it sort of thing. You know, we need it 3 hours ago. As a designer, we did actually eventually have our own offices at Western Avenue, which was the main place we were at. It's the big building on the A40 Gypsy Corner, which is all flattened and is, I think, is a hotel or a storage unit at the moment. Then I'd be sitting in my office, checking up on the assistants and how you're getting on, right? And here's a new design on the phone to production. Remember, this is pre-email these days. You don't know you've had it. It's so good. Sit on there, just bash away at a keyboard. No, be on the phone or going into a meeting, possibly at television centre, and doing the budget. As I said, that was our main as designers. Apart from the actual design, I suppose that most of the time we spent trying to balance the figures.
Okay, so obviously once you've got your budget, etc., how would you go around building something like the Liberator from Blake 7? You obviously couldn't go out and just buy a kit of them, what you were actually going to build. You had to come up with the design.
You could after it was made, but I mean, in actual fact, I didn't work in it, but at Anderson days of things like Thunderbirds and things like that, yes, they could actually go out and buy the dinky Thunderbird too and use it in the background, and they did. But we did kit bash a lot. Most of them were Anderson kits and Eagles that we'd actually kit bash into the models. In theory, you'd get a script. The script would be finished. You would read through it with your other heads of department, with my designer hat on. You'd mark up what was required. A beam from a ceiling falls into the shot, a spaceship flies through a window or whatever, or is in orbit around planet A and leaves planet B. If it's a non-science fiction, it could have been anything really. It's a fire explosion. Again, it could be science fiction anyway, but there were sort of differences, a collapsing chair or whatever, a breakable mug, loads of things. And you'd list them all down once it was worked out what was yours. You have to remember effects were the odd department. If you take the other design groups, which would have been set design, now would be called production design, set or scenic design, graphics design, costume design, makeup design, and effects design. Well, we could have crossed, and then let's stick with science fiction because it's more convenient, particularly Doctor Who, probably less than with Blake. They could be crossover with a creature. We could be making the mask, probably John Friedlander, who was in a department that specialised. John was a specialist, later Stan Mitchell, other people like Maurice McLean, who was sculpture specialist, which I was not, certainly. They could be saying this, we're doing the mask for the Sea Devils or the Silurians or the Draconians. And maybe in the Draconian case, it was even making some of the skin, which the costume designer would then take and make into the costume. They were probably one of the best creatures ever in Doctor Who, Draconians. Then they'd be talking with the set designer, the TARDIS is crashing into so-and-so, your model shot needs to hit the planet or whatever, which would obviously all be a miniature shot. Then there'd be possibly something inside the TARDIS console, whichever mark you want to talk about. Flashes may be going off on it because the console was part of effects anyway. We made it and looked after it. Maybe even with graphics. Less connection with graphics than anything, but possibly for titles. I did quite a lot of work making titles, which were then taken by graphics. The very first Open University, which used to revolve, if you remember it, that was a model I made as an assistant, which graphics then took and they stop framed it. It's all computer generated now, but no, that originally was original panorama globe. That was a model that was done by FX, not by me. So there could be a crossover with the graphics as well, not necessarily on Who or Blake, but on other programs. So that would really be in the office. That would be the main day, and then just wandering down the workshop and sorting out any problems there, getting, assistants that were established. They knew more than I did about doing things, but they could have been a new one we were training up. And, this is how I was going to say cut corners. That's actually the wrong way of putting it. It's the way to approach effects. One thing I always found was, particularly as an assistant, was your designer would give you the design, in theory. I'll use the example of my favourite designer, which was Ian Scoons, who sadly died 10 years ago. Very, very good designer, excellent artist, designer, graphic artist. He would do drawings in full colour. He was the only person. They will be like production drawings. Even his storyboards were, I would scribble away in a pencil, lucky to get anything at all, or a Pentel or a Sharpie or something. I know Ian's would be full colour. But he would be the first to admit, excellent designer, excellent imagination. He was useless at technology. And so consequently, he designed something and he'd give it to me or one of the other assistants to say, I want this built. He said, this is not going to work. It's good. It's a bit like the weapon pods on the ship in Alien, which if you actually work it out, wouldn't open, but they were either closed or open. You couldn't see them open because they'd hit one another. Ian was slightly like that. Sometimes as an assistant, you look at the drawing, particularly from here, and say, look, Ian, leave it with me, I'll design it. I'll work it out. It'll be your design, but I'll work it out how it's going to work. And then you fiddle around and you bits and pieces, you're on your bench, and you fiddle around. But there came a point when you actually had to get down and do something, because otherwise you'd just be fiddling around forever. And remember, our schedules were extremely tight in the BBC. The BBC had got no money and no time. If you had one or the other, it helps. But usually we had very little of either. And so we would, who's were turned around from making the items in 4 weeks or so. And you'd have to remember you possibly going on location, so you'd lose that time. We were really working up against it. So I did find there came a point and you just said, okay, I've got to, may not be what we end up using, but it's a start. And usually it did sort of work. As an assistant working, in fact, with Bernard Wilkie, one of the creators of the department, Jack Kine, Bernard Wilkie, creator of the department, the start of the department in 54, they're both long left us now, but he did the Planet of the Spiders, one of the best known ones because of the spiders. And all of a sudden we'd made loads of dummy spiders. By dummy, I mean they're all dummy. They were rubber-bodied, rubber legs. You could put them on wires like puppets to make them twitch and things like that. But all of a sudden they decided we wanted one that runs across the floor with no eyes. Now, these days, go and buy a model radio control car for a tenner, stick the body on it, boom, got it. No, didn't exist. It would have been mid-70s, I suppose. We said we could put a man on the moon and probes around Venus, mid-70s, but we couldn't do sort of radio control. That's why the K9 always crashed into the furniture. That bit was true. They wanted this spider. We had the body, all right, I didn't find the body, but I had to make up the chassis. Now, that was the time of Meccano. Anybody remember Meccano?
Yeah, used to have one. Oh, yes.
It's all Lego these days, which is very good. But Meccano was sort of different, but we had boxes and bits of Meccano, and I literally built up what I intended to be the prototype, the spider. Yes, it got named Boris, and if you know your Who songs, you know where that from John Entwistle's song.
John Entwistle.
Yep. And I put together this little piece of plywood, bits of wire, gears and motor, a battery pack and a switch at the back, radio control would have been too big to go in it. Intending to build the definitive one. No, we used the prototype. But I still got the prototype and it still works. Put the batteries in, it still works. Bit clunky, but it still works. So that as an assistant probably would be what a day. And things like that would have to be built extremely fast. And then the designer, with my designer's hats on, I'll be wandering down and checking, having gone through the budget and things, they can't afford that.
What kind of budget was you given?
How much have you got? How much?
Yeah.
I will give you the quote, which is absolutely genuinely true. Although then I'll explain it. Moving to Blake, when Blake first came along, do you know what his budget was in effects on the paperwork? Have a go. Have a guess.
£7,000.
Hang on a minute, I must have a drink. It is coffee, but
I was going to say 3, but
50 quid.
50 quid?
No way.
Paul, there was a reason. Blake replaced Softly Softly, which, if you remember, was a spin-off from Z-Cars. Now, our cop shows, up until that point, were not like American cop shows with loads of guns, loads of car chases, loads of bangs, explosions, whatever. We didn't have the money. So what they had done for Softly Softly, I can't remember if any effects were ever done with Softly Softly, possible not. They put in 50 quid an episode, just in case. It's a very basic, if it's there, you can raise it. If it's not there, it's a job to put it in. So they put 50 quid in. And because Blake was a drama series to replace, hour-long drama series to replace the for Softly Softly, it inherited the 50 quid. Now, yes, it went up, but
what was the real cost in the end?
60 quid. No, it did go up. And honestly, I'm not hedging, but I just can't remember exactly. It would have been a few thousand.
Yeah.
But you have to also remember that originally we didn't have to worry about the people's time, the assistants' time. That was, we're being paid anyway. Yeah, we were salaried staff. We're being paid. So the money was materials. And if you played your cards right, you could reuse stuff and whatever, and you didn't have to buy very much. But they did bring in a system called total costing. And total costing meant the production was charged our hours as well as, and the hours were the biggest bit. They were, of 100 quid, 90 quid was the hours, 10 quid was materials. That was a slight problem because if you have to build that in, that meant all our budgets had to increase. And in some cases, productions would say it was cheaper to go outside to Fred Blobb's effects company. They can do it for half the price, mainly because they knew how much we charged.
Did you subcontract many jobs?
Overall, the department did subcontract because, frankly, there was just too much work. You said the heydays. Yes, I did work in the golden age or whatever, the heydays. We actually had in the department at its peak 100-odd people. Actually, some of them were very odd. That included not only designers and assistants, it had included the front of the office staff. I mean, we needed that. Doing expenses and things had to go through something or other. We needed stores, maintain all the stock equipment, and I want to get a can of paint out the stores. It's in the stores. We didn't sign the book. We were still charged for it. The production was charged for it. But overall, there was still probably too much work. And either department, rarely, there were a few Who's actually, which were totally subcontracted out. Programs like Morecambe and Wise were, interestingly enough, when the BBC had Morecambe and Wise. They always had a good contact with one of the outside contractors. And, well, actually, they had very good contacts with Bernard and Jack, but it was decided, they work well with, so therefore we'll put that outside. Individually, as designers, we could say, well, I've got who, or, you'd have your design, you'd have about 3 or 4 assistants, and they'd put in a few others, like if you need any sculptor work doing with John Freelanders or Sandwich or Maury Patain or whatever, you could probably just pull them, he can just do this one job for it. Other times you just put stuff outside and say, here's a model maker, a prop maker, a mask sculptor, a mold maker, a mask maker, and give them that one particular job. So, and it's very difficult to generalise on that. There'd be loads and loads that would go through without any at all. Others, you'd be probably 2 or 3 would be on it. you'd have to go back and look at it. Oh, this and that. I remember doing so. The trouble is, you've got to remember, I think it's a long time ago. Well, I was there for nearly a quarter of a century overall. We've had a quarter of a century plus since then. Remembering jobs, me and Mike Tucker did the effects book, BBC VFX. It does what it says on the tin. And Mike funny have had a book left over from the department from the early days with every single job. Top of the Pops, smoke gun, Doctor Who, 6 weeks of dedicated work, boom, 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 boom. Everything was listed in it, big or small. And a lot of the programs, we can't remember. Here's a quick story. They're absolutely genuine. It's not really a modelling thing. Most of the time, we avoided doing Top of the Pops. It was smoke guns, it was flash pots, it was dry ice, whatever. We put new people into it. I was watching BBC 4, watching for a programme coming up. There was the Top of the Pops on. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Hadn't heard of half the group. Looked at I wonder who did the effects at the end, but visual effects, Matt Irvine. I didn't remember it at all. Sorry, right.
Matt, the BBC visual effects team often had to make magic out of nothing. What's the most ingenious or resourceful solution you remember pulling off on a really tight budget?
The last one that worked. Well, it's actually probably quite true. I have actually been asked that before, like, what's your favourite effect? The last one that worked properly. It's so difficult to say. I will quote, because it's well known now, doing Blake Series 2, which we've just reshot for the Blu-ray version.
Oh.
Series 1's out. It's well known. It's all out there. Series 1 Blu-ray is out. And in its infinite wisdom, BBC Studios, the commercial wing, what was Worldwide and what was Enterprises, decided that because the standard definition of 65 lines can be upscaled genuinely slight pause on that to HD, which in this case, HD has never really been defined, but in this case it's 1080 lines. What they decided they'd do is they redo the model shots. The stupid thing about it is, when we did the model shots, they were on film, 16mm film. Some was on 35mm film. 16mm film is already HD. It's above it. It's 2K.
HD.
Yeah.
35mm was 4K. So I think, why did it decide it? And in fact, it gives the fans something new. They do get new interviews with all us and the cast. Unfortunately, those that are still alive, unfortunately, we lost a lot of the cast of Blake. But it means the sort of shots, and I'll use Series 2 because I did all the miniatures for Series 2. A little bit Series 1, most of it done by Ian, but I completed Series 2. I couldn't be clever with it. By clever, I mean doing the Star Wars is this example. I mean, the planets, comets, sky, everything's there. Boom, spaceships flying through field, and then Falcon flying through an asteroid field, whatever. Yes, we could have done it, but it would have taken all our budget and all the time. I had to get through 6 shots a day. ILM doesn't have that problem, even then. So I had to get Liberator on screen, left to right to left, stationary, whatever. I used front projection with the way Superman flew is the usual example. Basically, I could set the Liberator up, just change the backgrounds. But we were still pushed like mad to get things done. And in Series 2, we have the infamous alien fleet, which never did really work properly because it really was a last-minute thing. I literally went around the whole department saying, "You're doing it for a booming spaceship." You know, here's a bottle of Coke, and sort of tape, cover the label up, boom, stick some wings on it. But it was literally that. But one ship that was wanted was the alien scout ship, since been renamed the Andromedan scout ship. It was the Andromeda fleet, I suppose, so there was a logic to it. And that's my infamous hairdryers. Because I thought, I haven't got anybody else to do it. I'll do it myself. What have we got? We had tea chests, literal tea chests full of bits. We had plastic bits we used to buy from a company. And inside it was the raw material for literally a multi-realistic hairdryer, which is still made. The classic hairdryer shape. These were just the parts. They were just the 2 halves. And there were 4 outright. There were 2 hairdryer, 2 halves, so that was 4 bits. And I thought, I don't know, let's stick it together, put it together. I put some R2-D2 model kit tops on it, and Inifix display stand, feet, and other dressing bits on it, kit batch literally, with widgets. That's widgets, the British term, not greeblets. That's the American term. Widgets is the British. And we filmed it. Now, we only filmed it from the back. Being audio, it's difficult to describe this, but if you can imagine looking at two hairdryers stuck together from the back, you can't really tell what they are. And on screen, you can't tell what they are. But I was doing one of my in front of cameras on Swap Shop or Superstore at the time. And of course, they wanted to talk about what I was doing. I was doing Blake, and I actually showed them the shot with the model held to the camera back end, so you could just see that. And I said, you can't tell them what it is, but of course, then I just twisted it 90 degrees so you could see those. And of course, nobody's let me forget it. In some ways, it's quite nice because that's what people remember. So I suppose that was one of the last-minute rush jobs to do, but it worked. And in fact, we have reshot it with the original model, now on HD digital, obviously. And our colleague, Chris Thompson, who's a CGI whiz, it works out of Belfast, he's done an amazing shot with it, which I couldn't have done at the time. That's what we can do now. So he's taken the shots using the original models, mostly. We've still got the London, we've still got the Pursuit ship. We've got a number of the other ships, and we've rebuilt some in 3D. I'm not talking about 3D CGI, I'm talking about 3D real models. We've rebuilt. Some of them are CGI, and we've reshot them, and then Chris has added all the bits and pieces in.
Matt, can I just ask you, did you have anything to do with how it was shot? Was you just solely, obviously, the producer of the models and the designer of the models?
In the original days, no. I was a special effects director. If we were doing with effect, in the old visual effects in the old days, remember, the effects department did everything. As Jack Kyan used to say appropriately, we were jack of all trades, and which is the carry-on bit is master of none. So we were all better at some things than others. Modelling was why I say my colleague Mike Tucker.
Courses?
Well, exactly. He was a very good sculptor. He's actually a very good model maker as well. He way surpasses me. We all did certain things hopefully better than others. No, in the effects department, we did absolutely everything for effects for any program, whether it be floor effects, bangs and explosions, special props, sonic screwdriver or whatever, or a gun, Liberator gun, and the miniatures, of course. But it was the miniatures. The other ones were incorporated into the main program that you were working, with costume, makeup, set design, whatever. The miniatures are one thing you could keep to yourself. And there, us as designers became effects directors. We directed our own sequences. We basically shot it then on film, virtually always on film, in our model stage. Frankly, you never actually ever saw the direct correction. For my favourite Who, which was Warrior's Gate, we had a very good director, Paul Joyce, very imaginative, but he only ever did the one. But it got on very well. Myself and Graham Story, the set designer, we got on very well with him. He actually said, can I come and see? He asked, could he come and see the model filming? I said, well, of course you can. You're the overall director. He said, I won't interfere. And he didn't. He was just interested in seeing how we did the model shooting, because it is different to, as it were, directing, standing on the studio floor or out on location. He's the only one who ever did that. They just didn't have time. They were busy, working with their cast or whatever. So, but I'll give Paul his due on that. He did actually come and see us work. So no, we actually saw it all the way through. Editing is something slightly different, because back to when we were shooting on film, we'd end up with the film, but then because that ended up with the film editor. So consequently, you did lose control slightly on it. There were a few occasions when I managed to get things done as I actually wanted, but it meant then sitting in with the film editor. And frankly, then sometimes it wasn't time, because again, they'd be off doing their own thing. I may have been in the studio, I may have been on location. The practicalities may not have been there. It's difficult to overall generalise, but in general, yes, we got as far as shooting the thing, but what happened to it after is another matter.
Okay. Which of the BBC projects do you think pushed you creatively the most? And which one do you wish you could revisit with today's technology?
We're doing it, Blake.
Fantastic. That was what I was hoping you was going to say.
We never knew we were. We never knew we were going to do that, because when we shot Blake, VHS wasn't in, let alone DVD, let alone Blu-ray, or Blu-rays are DVDs. So
When was Blake?
78 to 81.
Right. Okay.
Because I remember that 77 was Invisible Enemy, where K9 arrived, and we all worked. It was such a heavy program. We all worked, and the designers or assistant. I was a designer, but I did assist.
Yeah, I remember K9.
I did. I didn't do K9. No, that's the urban myth. Matt Irvine did not design or build K9.
Oh.
Boom. Right. I'll write a book.
Okay. I've been telling everybody you did.
No.
So we're going to chat with the guy that did K9 on Doctor Who.
I checked.
Don't worry, you're not the only one who gets it wrong. No, I did not design or build K9.
You operated him, though.
We'll get there in a minute. None of these stories are short. Invisible Enemy was a heavy show. There was no location work for the actors.
Mm-hmm.
The money there actually did get spent on the models. My colleague Ian Scoons did, and I built the Invisible Enemy shuttlecraft ships for that. So I did as it were, an assistant's job, even though I was a designer, because we were all working on it. And then decided that it was too much work for just one designer. We brought in another one of our designers. In this case, it was Tony Harding. Now, Ian, because Ian wanted to, he went off and shot the miniature work. That's what he did. Remember, he worked on Thunderbirds, things like that. That was his main forte. So Tony got lumbered, probably, with the rest of the studio, including the design of K9, a robotic dog. And although Ian had actually done a drawing for K9, which is actually in the effects book, Tony said it's impractical to do it. Now, he had to start from scratch. So the design of K9 that you all know and love is Tony Harding's. He designed it, and his original design is very close to what was actually built. And about half a dozen members of the department went in and built it. Made a body, done as a mould. It was cast in fiberglass, and the mechanics were put in. Correction. I was going to say none of us were au fait with radio control. I was sort of, but I wasn't working. I was doing another part of the job. They put it outside to slow radio control, and they built the radio control. That's where Nigel Brackley got involved, because he was working at the shop. Can you come along and run the dog? Now, being one thing in one Doctor Who episode, there was no guarantee that K9 would, it's always known as the dog would stay. In fact, there were two endings where he stayed, as it were, with Professor Marius, and one where he left or stayed with the Doctor. Of course, it turned out that he stayed with the Doctor. But when Tony did the design, he didn't know that, because it was just, this is a one-off prop, admittedly fairly complex, fairly expensive for a program, one-off prop, but it was one-off prop. When it was announced he's going to stay, Tony's first reaction to production, I can now build it like I want it. Well, he can't rebuild it because it's now seen. He can't. So all the faults with the dog, which remain not so much in the design is the design, that's fine. With the electronics and the radio control and the mechanics of it, could be changed. Now, that's the point I got involved. And it wasn't immediately, but by the time he came the Mark II, which was basically the Mark I resprayed a different colour, my assistant, Charlie Lum, was very clever mechanically. We decided, look, we've got to redo this to make him more reliable. The original one was rear-wheel drive, front steering, like a standard car. But because as soon as he hit a cable on the floor, he bumped up against it. He couldn't climb over it. So I immediately turned it, let's make it front drive, big wheels, so he'll climb over the cables. And then all the doors always had a strap on the bottom of them to hold the sides. And so he could climb over that. That meant it was rear-wheel steering, which is difficult to actually steer. You have to really concentrate on the radio. I also changed the radio. The original radio was 27 megahertz AM. That's the same frequency taxis use, or did. The jokes, occasionally K9, you couldn't find it because he'd gone down to Shepherd's Bush and taken a third. Weren't true. But the fact that he kept driving into the sea, crashing into the scenery and interfering with the cameras was actually true, because the signals were so crude. I upped him to, first of all, to FM, frequency modulated. I mean, if you want any difference, listen to an AM radio signal and an FM radio signal. It's a different.
Miles apart.
A much cleaner signal. We moved to 40 FM, and eventually, on the final rebuild I did in 2009 for Sarah Jane, He's now on 2.4 gig, which is a worldwide radio control frequency. It's Bluetooth, and the receiver and the transmitter are locked together. You can't break them. Well, probably the CIA could, or GCHQ, but in general, they're locked together. So we changed the batteries to lead-acid motorcycle starter batteries. They'll run all week on one charge. And I've done Robot Wars since then. So I use a Robot Wars speed controller because that's the other thing it used to blow with monotonous regularity. Those three things. Otherwise, the dog is the same. He's now in the Mark III colours, which was the Sarah Jane colours, which is actually been, and that's, I suppose, my only addition to the design. He's now got 3 handles on him, frankly, so you could lift. He only had one before. Difficult. You can lift him for those handles.
Has he got a new lead?
Never had a lead. Is it his own dog? Got a new dog bowl? No. Everything else in the collar. I think the backpack got lost at one point. We had to remake one. The ears were forever getting lost. We had to remake them. So it's not quite like Trigger's broom. It doesn't have 3 no heads and 4 no handles. But no, the basic, he's 85% original, what Tony originally built.
Yeah.
I think the screen up the side, which was only ever used once, I think, blue screen. Nowadays, I've actually got a small, little Chinese television monitor. It's never been used, but it's in there, so you can actually do a picture. When I was rebuilding you in 2009, I stripped it out completely.
What's he made of? Is he all plastic?
It's fiberglass. It's a fiberglass mould.
Okay.
That's why we had the duplicate one was done from the same mould. There apparently were 6, possibly 7 taken from that mould. We had 2 spares, what we call lightweight. They didn't have the motors on either side, or batteries. You can see them sometimes. There's shots with Tom. Sorry, the doctor who played by Tom Baker. Let's put it that way. And the dog's upside down, and you can see there's nothing inside because it's a dummy one. The dummy one became the rusty one in School Reunion. Again, that was done by Mike Tucker. So there are only 2 screen used BBC K9s. And I say that because there was the Australian new one, which obviously is still screen used. But BBC screen used one. No, the original one, which is in Milton Keynes Sci-Fi Museum, is on loan there. Mike's got the dummy one. So we have both of the originals, so we know where they are. They're available weddings and bar mitzvahs and things.
Matt, you've obviously worked with some real legends in British TV and sci-fi. Do you remember any particular collaborations or behind-the-scenes moments that make you smile?
Virtually all of them, probably. There is a funny one, actually. This is with a dog, actually, because, well, there is one, actually, it's not really me, but as you know, the voice for the dog, with one season except, has always been John Leeson, a good friend of mine. And Tom Baker hated the dog, but because got on very well with John as a fellow actor. And particularly on location, they'd always do the Times crossword together. And apparently there's one story that I didn't actually witness it, but John tells it. Apparently we're sitting on location between takes. Tom's sitting next to the dog, and he's obviously got an earpiece in. John's back in his trailer. We don't have trailers or Winnebagos, but probably somewhere or other. And they're doing the trouble is people going past to see Tom Baker doing the crossword with K9 because he's getting the other one through his headpiece from John. That was Stones of Blood, actually. That's right, it was Stones of Blood. That one, I know there was on occasion, moving K9 outside was easier than Daleks. I mean, how Daleks took over the universe, I don't know, because originally they couldn't fly. Actually, they could. The new Who showed, the Daleks can now go upstairs. In the old one, there was one scene in one of the stories where the Daleks did float upstairs. Anyway, normally they couldn't. So moving them around, we used to have to take big lumps of blockboard to get them to run on, which usually meant you had to shoot just above them so you couldn't see the fact they were running on wood, not on the ground or floating. There was one occasion with K9, it would have been Stones of Blood. We needed him to come up the field. It was done the corner of a field. He had to come up one end of the field, do a right angle turn, and then race off down the other end of the thing. He's not going to do this. I mean, when I did redesign the works of K9, I worked on a principle that Tom wasn't going to stop for the dog. If he was striding down the pavement or down the road, he wasn't going to stop. He wasn't going to wait for the dog to catch him up. I had to get the dog to go as fast as Tom could stride. He could move quite fast, but only on a reasonable surface. He'd work on a pavement or on a tarmac road. A grassy field or a muddy field, there's no way we're going to get to work. So what we had to do was, first of all, we put a lead. I was designing. I wasn't actually running. We had Nigel with us there to actually run K9. First of all, we had a nylon line on him to pull in. He got up one side of the field, up to the corner. Then literally, me or Tony, one of my sitters, were lying down out of shot and literally pulled the back of the dog round 90 degrees, at which point there was one of our boards that we used to use for Daleks. We got the same boards we used for the augury, the big stones. We pulled him onto that, and we had got another nylon, and we pulled him. It was going twice as fast by that point, because it was all behind a hedge, so you couldn't see this. You just see the top of the dog racing away as fast as you possibly could. So those are shots where you literally have to think on your feet, because we never recce, rarely recce, you never have a chance. You go on location, then you do the recce, so then you think, oh my God, we need, as I said, we had the boards, we had the augury boards. The augury, actually, digressing slightly, if you remember the stones of blood, the stones were these big Stonehenge stones. And I remember having had mishaps with creatures and things and monsters. Never my favourite with Doctor Who. I said some, like Draconians, work extremely well. Others don't. And when we went to the first meeting for Stones of Blood, I remember sitting around in the director's office with all my other heads of department there and saying, look, I remember saying, look, if you want these auguriers turning into equity members in rubber suits racing across the moors, forget it. You do it. I don't want to do it. If you want them to keep them as stones, which we can make in fiberglass, or a few of them in fiberglass, we can put lights in them to make them glow. We can move them, again, on the Dalek boards and things like that. Fine. They did actually, this particular time, take my advice and actually, or my recommendation. And we went for actually hovering stone and glowing stones and not equity members in rubber suits racing across the walls. So that's why we had the boards there, so we could actually tow them on the boards. It's useful for the dog. But there's always going to be another, again with K9, funnily enough, just reminded me of it, at the end of the first Sarah Jane, the one and only original K9 and Company, where the later Sarah Jane Adventures came from 25 years later. The end shot is K9 racing to the rescue, saving the boy from the funeral pyre that the witches were sacrificing him on, gun blazing away. And we got him ready. It was actually genuinely shot at night. It was none of this day for night stuff. Genuinely at night in a churchyard with a gravel path. So yes, he would run on it. But as we started, the drive broke on the dog. Fortunately, under the dog, and it's still there to this very day, is a very large screw eye. But it's very occasional. And in my box, my K9 box, and it does exist with K9 on the top of it, is a large reel of 50 foot-pound fishing line. So I wanted to basically attach it, just pulled him, and he went twice as fast. All the rest of the radio was working, so his lights were on, his ears, whatever, they could all be working. But because it was night, we didn't really have to hide the nylon. Again, it was right in the gravel. But you always have to think on your feet. If it can't go wrong, it will go wrong. And even if it won't go wrong, it'll still go wrong.
Well, moving on a little bit then, you've written extensively about model making through a plethora of books and magazine articles over the decades. What motivated you to start documenting the processes that you've used, and what do you hope readers take away from your books?
I'm not quite sure I can answer either of those. What did I start? I started, the first article I remember writing, or the first bit of published writing I did, was for Scale Models. I don't think it was even international at that point. It would have been August 74. I happen to just remember that. And it was a spacecraft model. That was my first article. Once I did it, I obviously then carried on doing it. And by that magazine, Scale Models International, I ended up doing a regular science fiction spacecraft article. And then, because model cars were also my big thing, I did those as well. That ran for, I was going to say, hundreds of issues. It probably was, actually, until the magazine finally finished. By then, I'd started writing books on model making and sort of carried on. And me and Mike did the BBC VFX book. I've done about 15 or 16 books in total.
Obviously, weathering products and things you can get off the shelf these days weren't available back in the day. What did you used to do for actually weathering, and what was your inspiration for creating weathering on the models?
Now are we talking amateur or professional?
Both.
They do sort of differ.
Okay.
You're right in the sense that for the amateur the hobby model maker, which I am as well, the idea of weathering materials is relatively new. And nowadays, Spaniards seem to be particularly good at this. They produce hundreds of different weathering things. But we do as well here, so do the Americans. And you can use them to a certain extent. In fact, for the latest shoot we've done for Blake, a lot of the weathering on the models was done using these amateur model making materials. In the older days, going back to when we were shooting the effects models, they didn't really exist. About the only thing you had was black powder. I don't mean black powder in the gunpowder sense, because that's all, but literally black poster powder, or poster powders of various colours. And we would sort of use those, but we would also use washes and things. You get a very light mix of a colour, usually not black unless you want to get rid of wires, in which case, yes, black. But most things are either not pure black, pure white, pure black, or whatever. They are a mix. Be dark browns, dark reds, even dark greens, greys, whatever. And you could do washes. You can do this in hobby modelling as well. You'd literally water them down. If they were acrylic paints, you'd use water. They were enamel paint, you'd have to use meths, not white or terps.
I seem to remember in the early days, it was all like the old Winsor and Newton oil paints that you took down with terps or whatever.
I didn't, because they were too expensive. I tell you why, those ones, the fine art paints, the Winsor and Newtons or whatever, would tend to be used by model soldier painters. They used to use them a lot, because in some ways they were sort of doing like 3D fine art almost. It's amazing what they can do. I'm not good at that. They wouldn't normally. I'm not saying they would. The trouble is, you can't say they were never used, because obviously somebody's going to use them somewhere.
Well, I think the figure painters in the 70s, that's basically what they used to paint the whole thing, was the oil.
Well, exactly, but they're
not just to make washes.
They're dirty. I have to say, a lot of those figures, I would think they're too clean. But when they did wash them, they would have been using the same material, I would assume. Whereas with the standard model maker or the non-figure model maker, the cars, the tanks, the aircraft, whatever, the ships, would probably be using Cumberland enamels in this country, Tester's equivalent in the States or whatever. You basically would be using washes from those. You'd either use a mix of those. People did start to use dry paints, as I said, poster paints, because they could be mixed in or used dry. One big difference, I would say, between the amateur model maker and I would say professional in miniature filming model maker, is that the amateur hobbyist would be making the model which is permanent. The famous ones, of course, are tanks. I mean, they're always going to get, that's what all the mud was invented for, was for tanks. There's going to be no diorama which hasn't got some mud or whatever equivalent of there, or sometimes even real mud works just as well. But the thing is designed to be fixed. So consequently, the weathering is fixed. Now, on the effects model making, invariably it isn't. It's put on just for that shot. And then if another shot, we might add a bit more or take a bit off or whatever. Hobby model maker is going to have it fixed down and doesn't want to open the window, open the door, and all the dust blow out all over the place. Now, we doing particularly bases, and this applies to just spaceships flying through the air, particularly with the base we were doing recently for these reshoots, those are not fixed down by any means. They're literally put together at that particular moment, and then they have to be cleared up after the shoot because we've got another one down. But they may be readjusted to a completely different angle, which means moving all the rocks around. Literally, we were doing moving the rocks, moving the sand, real plants we were actually using as well, which would not be used normally by an amateur model maker. Yes, it still wants to get a realistic result. The way you go about it is different.
Matt, on that basis, with studio lighting, did you find that you had to really exaggerate some of the weathering and effects? Would it have changed your approach? Was it something that you had to consider?
You consider it, but you are down then into the hands of the DP, the direct photography.
Yeah.
Because their job is to light. We can only go so far on this. If you're doing your own amateur shoot, yes, you're lighting it yourself, or your own amateur photography. Professionally, no, you're going to have a DP there. and they will be lighting it. And whatever the story would dictate, it's always difficult with a space shot. It's always at night, isn't it? Let's put it this way, if we're doing a model base, is it during the day? Is it we literally did it? We did one that was during the day and then during night, and therefore lighting changing.
Yeah.
I have to say, modern lighting techniques in the old days, when you'd be bringing a Jenny in because you were running film at high speed, they needed as much light as you possibly could put on the thing. So much so that the Liberator engine used to melt for monotonous regularity because we had a 500 watt photo flood bulb in it. Which is actually quite true. I think we went through about 6 of them, had to get rebuilt. The trouble was, I mean, a 500 watt photo flood puts out one hell of a lot of heat.
Yeah.
It's a case of run camera, then switch the engine on, then switch the camera. Normally, everything's ready, and the camera goes on at the last minute. The Liberator, no, it wasn't. The engine went on.
Matt, with your hobby modelling, you're quite a passionate car builder, aren't you?
Yes.
What would you say draws you to building cars? Is it probably because you've done so much sci-fi stuff, or are you a car person at heart?
I'm a car person at heart, really, I think. Particularly American cars. I've got American cars here.
Yeah.
Real ones, full-size ones. I drive them. Nothing works spectacular, but, unfortunately, I haven't got a Mustang or a Firebird. Would be nice, but there we are. I've got some modern ones. No, I suppose it started. The question you haven't asked me is, what was my first model kit?
Go on then.
My first model kit, I know that exactly. It was an Airfix Austro-Antarctica.
Ah, okay.
Little aeroplane.
And the second one was a
Yes.
plane. Because at that particular point, remember, we're going back to the 60s here, and there wasn't much.
How old would you have been?
I was born in 1948, so do the math, as an American persons quaintly don't say. So I was at school during the 60s, and the thing was then, compared now, what was there to do? The boys, and probably girls as well, but I mean, I happened to be a boy, and most of your mates tended to be boys as well. I'm an only child, so I didn't have siblings. You went to youth club, went to scouts, you played football, that's proper football, that's American rubbish, or you built models. There wasn't really much else to do. So we all built models, and I said, and you go to Woolworths, if you can remember what that was, where Airfix, also slightly unfairly, got all the kits before the model shops themselves got them. They got them a month early. So you went to Woolworths to buy your 2 shilling fixed kits. 2 shillings, 10p in modern money. And, got it out and pulled it, slapped it together as quick as you can with it all glue all over the table, much to your mum's disgust. And that, as I said, literally, I do remember the first one was, because let's face it, they did more aircraft than anything else. But you did actually, but I remember, at the time, you bought every Airfix kit, and you built it, didn't matter whether it was a figure, ship, a tank, a trackside accessory, or an aircraft. But what I realised was their cars were very nice, but they were A32nd scale, which was quite small. And they didn't have any chrome parts. And you saw these American kits, Revell, AMT, whatever, and they were bigger because they were 25th scale. There's a lot of, I could tell you loads of stories about kit scales, but I won't go into it now. You can do a whole program on kit scale, why it's 125th and not 124. And they had rubber tyres, actually were vinyl, but anyway, looked like rubber, and chrome parts. And they were American cars, which you didn't often see on the streets. That's why it got me interested in a larger scale. They just happened to be, Revell did an E-type Jag as well. So, we left it all right and right. But they had rubber tyres and chrome parts. So that's why I sort of got interested. And the first kit I bought, the first non-Airfix kit would have been AMT 1962 Ford Fairlane, which I still...
Very nice.
I do remember that too.
You know what that vehicle is?
Yeah, there's a few that go to the classic car shows. I've seen them there.
Fairlane is a standard.
I know absolutely nothing about American cars.
It was a standard mid-Ford size Ford car. It wasn't the smallest. It wasn't the size of a Galaxy. It was a standard. It'd be big by our standards, but it was full Granada size, that sort of size, probably slightly bigger.
Okay, so with your car building hat on, what do you use these days as your primary paint of choice? And are you looking for the deep gloss effect, or are you just looking for a...
No, it's the one thing I don't for is a deep gloss effect, because paint finish is a scale. Any model finish is scaled. If you put a high gloss finish on a model car that's 25th scale, all right, bigger than 32nd, it's too glossy. Unfortunately, it ends up looking like a Barago diecast because they have a high gloss on them, and it's wrong. They shouldn't have a high gloss. So although, yes, a gloss finish is a gloss finish, I'm not one that goes around polishing it out to the extreme, which some people do, because it just makes it too glossy. I've always worked on that principle. Paint-wise, it depends what it is. If it's a standard colour, red, blue, green, I would use Humbrol. The modern Humbrol spray. And I always use sprays, both spray cans, or the Americans call Raffle cans, or I suppose it is, or an airbrush. When I was doing a lot of reviews for Scale Models International, most stuff tended to be spray cans because it's just speed. Looking back in it, heaven knows, remember, I still had a full-time job getting through these, but I could work fast. That's one thing that actually did help me with my effects career, is I realised I can work fast and still get a reasonable finish. Like I've wrecked one side of this model that's going to be in the magazine, but I've wrecked the left-hand side, and I'll just photograph it from the right-hand side. I'm not dealing with the interior and the chassis, and it's a sports car. It's going to be black. Put all the finish on the outside, red and the chrome, whatever, on the chrome hubcaps, or we'll embellish this, technically speaking. You know where to compromise. I'm doing the photography anyway, and I'm lighting it because it's my own shoot. So I'm my own boss in a particular case. I know what to actually do. Otherwise, I have to import them officially Testor's paints from the States. You can also get Tamiya paints as well, so I can use some alternative colours with Tamiya. Or I will airbrush. There's a company called Zero Paints here that do virtually any colour. Got to be airbrushed. And it comes out matte, so you've got to clear coat it. But it means if you want that actual colour for the A-Team GMC van, they do it.
Got it.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you find building scale models today gives you the same satisfaction as it did when you started? And has your relationship with the hobby evolved over time?
Probably a qualified yes to then. I'm still doing it, even at my age. I'm still, heaven forbid, going back to when we were kids. At one particular point, obviously as boys, you did discover girls, or maybe other boys, it depends. Quite acceptable these days. It takes your mind off of building models. I think it was the editor I knew, he's moved round two now, but Skinner at Scale Modeler, I did do some writing for. They a heck of a lot better, actually, being American, even in dollars. He did say that basically they recycle their articles about, or the type of articles, every 5 years, because they realise the average male, that's not just American, but a Western male, not probably, loses interest mid-teens, gets married, has kids, and then re-establishes model making in their mid-20s or so. So they find they can, probably within 10 years, they can recycle stuff in the magazine. And that's the way it mostly goes. Now, I was sort of odd in that, I suppose, yes, I did discover girls and cars and things, and got married and things, and I had one daughter. But I never stopped in the model making, which probably helped me getting into the effects. I joined the BBC first in news in the stills library, the photographic library, at a time of Apollo. And I realised we had the pictures that NASA were putting out on Apollo, but then so did ITN, which it wasn't any other television at that time. Sort of Sky didn't come into it. But I went home and used to photograph the Airfix lunar module against a suitable background and take them in, and we use them. Very useful on Apollo 12 when Alvin pointed the camera at the sun and burnt the tube out. So we had the audio, we didn't have any visuals. And on that particular evening, 14, I think it was, of my photographs of the Airfix lunar module were used on the news over the cell track. And in fact, I actually got the layout because that was the time they landed right near the Surveyor 3 unmanned probe that had landed a few years earlier in a crater. And in that, you've been looking at it. People said to me, you had inside information there. No, it's pure chance. My actual layout of the Airfix lunar module and the crater and the Surveyor model and the little Airfix astral figures have got virtually correct, but it's pure chance. And all right, astronomically, being an astronomer, I do know what the layout should be and the shadow angles and things like that. But the layout of where the crater was and things, that was particularly pure chance.
Matt, if you could design and release one dream kit under your own name, maybe small space, Any genre, any era, what kit would it be?
One I'd like to see, and it has never been done, being a fan of TV and movie cars, star cars, which are generally called, and being the owner originally of a Reliant 325 Supervan and a Reliant Scimitar as well, four-wheel Reliant. Nobody's ever done the Only Fools and Horses Reliant.
Del Boys van. That was a Regal, wasn't it?
Oh, wasn't it a Robin?
Everybody says a Robin Reliant.
No, it wasn't a Robin.
You don't say Robin Reliant, you say Reliant Robin, and it wasn't a Robin anyway. It was a Regal 325. It was a 330 Supervan because it was a only old.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what we used to call them.
I had the car version because I could drive it at 16.
Yeah. I've got a die cast of it, but no one's ever done a kit of it.
Yeah, I've got a die cast. I've got a clock radio, which has got a very good plastic model, but it's actually about 1/20th. Should be 24th or 24, 25. And if you're real purist, you work the two of them together. It always makes me laugh, actually. The Americans use 1/25th, which basically America being the last bastion of the imperial scale, apart from, I think it's Burma and or Myanmar or whatever, and one other country, I think, Libya or something like that, still uses imperial, and we do to a certain extent. They use 1/25th, which is the bastardized metric scale. The rest of the world is metric. What do they use? 1/24th, imperial scale. Just one of my little scale things I like throwing up. I just think that would be quite a nice thing to do it. I also want the Whomobile.
Yeah.
The Whomobile. John Pertwee?
Yeah. The real one we use for my sports spec. That was exactly back to Model 4T. He had two cars. He's the only one that's had a car, and he's a kid. Bessie was the old-fashioned. It was actually basically one of these kit cars made to look like an old Model 4T or a Morris Cowley or something, probably on the Ford Transit chassis. There were two of those, actually. One of which is at Bewley race. GQ's got one down there. But the Whomobile he had commissioned in personally as John Pertwee, not as Doctor Who, or rather the programme didn't he? It was him. It was built up, used in the programme, and then it disappeared. But we knew where it was. A few years ago when I ran my small space show at my village hall here, which has now become fairly well known, uses my sort of trade name, small space. We actually got the guy who owns it, said, I'll bring it out for your show. So we did. In fact, we had it twice. And actually, it's now down at Bewley. It's got all the workshop facilities there. It's only powered by, it's basically a Bond 875, which just then Reliant bought Bond. And
is that the one Airfix did? Bright orange?
Yeah, they did the Bond bug. That was a Reliant product, whereas the Bond 875 was an original Bond product. It was based on a Hillman engine. It was actually lethal because it was a rear engine. Because the Impulse is the only rear engine production car.
Coventry Climax engine in those, isn't it?
Yeah, it was an all aluminium engine. And it was, my God, I mean, at least the ordinary Reliance had front engines. The balance was right. As long as you drove them properly, the three was no real problem with it. But the 875 was, but that's what the Whomobile is. The original Reliants were a motorbike, a bit like these Lambrettas that still run around Italy, which are basically a Lambretta with a three-wheel Lambretta with a body on the back. That's what the first Reliants were. But they soon became proper cars, but they just happened to have three wheels. Mind you, so do some moderns, all the way round. And in fact, my one, the 325, eventually had the van version on it. Mine was the 325, whereas the Only Fools and Horses was 330. But they had a proper all-aluminium 600cc engine in them. They used to run it separately as a power thing for fire engines. When they used to, the engine, that was a Reliant engine in that power, you know.
Well, you could do a double set of Del Boy's van, but also Del Boy's lime green Capri gear, Rodney.
And you could also have a couple of figures, one as Batman, one as Robin, couldn't you?
Yeah. So there's your box set of the two. That would be fantastic. I'd certainly buy one of those.
Well, that's very true, I suppose. The Capri is done. I mean, Monogram have done the Capri. Capri's been done quite a few times. Mostly left-hand drive, but you convert them to right. The Regal's actually never been done. Interesting thing, you mentioned the Bond bug. which was a Reliant product, although it had the Bond, I suppose because Bond bug, it's alliterated BB. That had the standard Reliant engine in it, a 4-cylinder front engine, rear drive. That is what the land speeder is in Star Wars, Luke's land speeder. And the funny thing about it, because basically, the thing about any Reliance kit, count my scimitar, because they're fiberglass bodies, they're all on proper steel chassis. You can take the body off and put another body on it. And that's exactly what they did with the land speeder, with Luke's land speeder. Because I emphasize Luke because since it's been Han's land speeder, built in the States. The thing about this one, of course, it was a British car built here, right-hand drive. You look at a lot of the American shot, and in the movie, it's right-hand drive. Luke's sitting on the right side, driving it. C-3PO or whatever, or Obi-Wan is in the passenger seat on the left. If you look at American shots or stills, they flip it. They think, oh, it's got to be left-hand drive. No, it isn't. Han's land speeder is left-hand drive because it's built in the States. But no, Luke's one is right-hand drive. And in fact, there are several kits of it. And in fact, AMT are doing one for next year. It'd be in 12th scale. And they better make sure it's right-hand drive as well.
Yes, indeed.
Fantastic.
Well, just before you go, Matt, just tell us what you've got on your bench at the moment. What are you putting together?
Up until the weekend, I've been repairing some of the Blake models we were using for filming, which, of course, obviously is my professional hat. With my amateur hobbyist, I've been, with my Star Cars hat on as well, I've been building the new Revell kits from Stranger Things. And I built the truck and the Camaro, Billy's Camaro, which wasn't featured very much, but why they did it was they had an existing kit. It was a monogram kit that they reused. They redid the truck, but they didn't have the correct Chevy truck. But then they've also done the pizza van, which is only in season 4, but it's in it a lot.
I take it you're a fan then?
Oh yeah, yes, I'm absolutely a fan of it.
Have you not seen any of Stranger Things, Mark?
Maybe the first one, I think.
Right, well, you need to, it's one of the things you need to persevere.
It's like the Goonies meets science fiction and classic horror. It's fantastic. Really good fun.
It's a great mix. Duffer Brothers have actually been very clever with it. It's a good cast. The only trouble is, because it's been so long, all the cast that started off with pre-teen, and now...
Yeah, they've all grown up now, haven't they?
They're mid-20s and married. You know, it's sort of very strange. But of the kits, I did the truck.
Hopper's truck, isn't it?
Hopper's Chevy Laser truck. Having sorted the colours out, because I'm sure the colours they gave were wrong. Then the Camaro, as I said, which is a dark blue, that was all right. But what really threw me was the pizza van. The model, it's the T3 VW Type 2 T3. Type 2 means it's the van, not the Beetle. Type 1 is the Beetle, Type 2 is the van. So then it's T1, 2, 3, whatever. So this is the T3, and it's the Beetle.
Is that a bay window? Is that the one they call a bay?
It's a microbus, or the Americans call it a vanagon, cross between a van and a wagon. So it's the bus, not the van, and it's had extra parts because it's got this big pizza sign on top of it. But what really has thrown me is the colour, because it looks on screen, because it's very difficult. Back to lighting, funnily enough, about this, it's a yellow colour, but it's not a bright yellow. And I went through all my cans of paint. Is it this tested colour? Is it this Humber? Is it this Tamiya? No, I cannot. It's the wrong. This one, it's too brown. They go to the camouflage. No, they're too brown. They're not yellow enough. And eventually I went into B&Q and I went to their can displays, and they Rust-Oleum. Ironically, Rust-Oleum actually owns testers now, but we can't get testers in the UK. We can get Rust-Oleum. And had this lemon yellow, buttercup yellow, matte buttercup yellow.
Like a wishy-washy yellow?
Yeah, it was sort of yellow, but it wasn't a bright sunflower yellow. I thought, that's about it. And it's matte. It's matte that I can put gloss coat over it. So I got it back and I did a test. I thought, that's about the nearest. I compared it with the box art Revell supplied, which of course is art, could be, but also screen grabs on the car part of IMDb. Just, what is it? Some of the night shots that's used is daytime shot. Yeah, this is about the closest I'm going to get. But the most interesting thing was I sprayed it. It's not matte at all. It's high gloss. Well, talk about it's gloss. It's not high gloss, but it's only gloss. I don't have to put it there. It saves me one job. So at least I've now got the body done, the correct colour. I've trimmed the windows, which are black. I've used black bare metal foil because trying to individually paint, my hand is still, for my age, thank God, steady. Visually, you can see this on radio. It's a bit of a problem. So I bare metal foil the windows, and probably maybe tomorrow, if I give myself a treat, I might put the decals on it, because all these big decals all over the place.
Would you do any figures, Matt? Would you do a Demogorgon or a Demidog or something like that?
I will do figures that fit in with if I'm doing the cars. I mean, like say the Dukes of Hazzard, you can get the cars, Cousin and Daisy, Uncle Jesse.
And you get the police car.
Yeah, the police car.
Was that the one with Roscoe P. Coltrane?
Roscoe P. Coltrane.
And Anus.
He got his figure, and who drives the pickup truck? Cooter's truck, which is wrong for the series. But anyway, it's what was issued by MPC, because I had it already in the catalogue. In fact, the General Lee was wrong for years, because they reissued their NASCAR body, which has the streamlined rear window, where the actual Charger they used had the tunnel rear window. They still sold millions of the things, but they've now actually retooled it. I moaned at them so long, they were going to retool it, really. So they've retooled it, and it's actually now got the correct window on it. Probably everybody's got them now, and you can't do the series anyway now because they can't use the Confederate flag. So yeah, no, in that way, I will do figures that will go with the fit out will go with the various cars. So, because most of them haven't got figures. Like Stranger Things, there are no figures. Somebody may end up producing them. They're usually all garage produced, and of course they're all 3D printed.
Yeah.
But somebody may well do them, in which case, yes.
Well, Matt, I must admit the conversation this evening has taken so many different directions I wasn't expecting when we actually started the conversation this evening, but absolutely fascinating all the way through. And thank you very much for your time. You've enjoyed going down memory lane as much as we've enjoyed taxing your memory of what you used to do in days gone by.
Well, I think it was mostly correct. A few things you're saying, what's this thing? Anyway, but no, I do tell these stories, just to various people every now and again. I'm not necessarily for broadcast. Consequently, they do remind me every now and again about the various things. I think, I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll get the chance to meet up possibly at Telford, Scale Model World.
Possibly not. No, I'd have other things around that time.
Hopefully we'll see you sometime in the future.
I won't be there, but no, and if you want to carry on at some particular point, or
that'd be much appreciated.
I can ramble on about other things.
Brilliant. Part 2 will be in the future.
That's all right, thank you.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Cheers, Matt.
Think you've heard it all? Think again. Follow Beyond the Box Art on the socials for updates that breaks the boundaries, bends rules, and redefines the ordinary.
Well, that's about it for this episode of Beyond the Box Art. A huge thank you first to Scott from the Scale Modelers Supply. Mate, we really appreciate you getting up extra early in Australia to chat with us and share what's going on down under. And of course a massive thank you to Matt for taking us behind the scenes for some of the most iconic BBC sci-fi ever made, from Doctor Who to Blake 7. And I for one can't wait to see those newly reshot model sequences on the Series 2 Blu-ray for Blake 7. Now, next episode we've got a real treat. We'll be chatting with Jamscrew about their brilliant Seeking conversions in 48 scale, and yes, the upcoming 32nd scale version 2. Also joining us, members of the IPMS UK Scale Model World team. We're busy getting everything ready for Telford in November. That episode will drop on the Thursday before Telford, so make sure you give it a listen while you're on your way to the show. Plus, we've got a special bonus episode dropping midday on the Saturday of Telford that we've already recorded. What's it about? Shh, it's a secret for now, but trust me, there's a reason it's a secret, and you'll find out soon enough. So make a note in your show plan for Telford to come and say hi to us at the Beyond the Box Art Pod Lounge in Hall 1. If you come up to me and you're one of the first 100 to do so at Telford, you'll get a special BenchMates sticker. Also, we'll have regular show stickers to give away, and we'll be demoing the Zimmerit tools from Ammo, plus giving you the opportunity to have a play with the tools and the paste yourselves. Also, we'll have some goodies from Phase Hanger and Fishcop Model Supply on the stand as well. So until the next episode, from all of us on the team, keep well and bye-bye for now.